What is up, everyone, and welcome back to some more Higurashi. Up front, just want to say apologies for the lack of recordings recently. I've been recovering from a concussion, and part of that is not being able to look at screens for, an extended amount of time, which definitely keeps me from recording. In fact, the last recording session, was before I had actually gone to the doctor about about what was going on with my head and whatnot, and I actually ended up making myself very sick by the end of that recording session. So that's why there's been a bit of an extended break over the last couple of weeks. But I should be better now. All right. I won't be able to be moving and bobbing to the bongo music. Gonna really have to fight those urges, but I should definitely be able to actually record now without feeling too bad. So in the previous recording session, it's been a while now. I think, because it was only a 2-hour recording session, I think all that really happened was like just Keiichi riling up the community and whatnot, right? Because there was them going to the school at I think that was in the last recording session. Them going to the consultation center, with the kids from school, and then they had a meeting with like the director and whatnot, and then he rallied up all the, not only all the kids at the school, but then all these various groups from outside of the school in Okinomi and whatnot. So they had like a group of like 60 people, and then he went in there with Irie and Rika. We didn't actually see the conversation, but he like spoke to like the president of the building or some shit to like really plead their case and whatnot. But I guess all that inspired Rika to actually try in this cycle now. Right, she told Hanyu that like, this is it, this is the last cycle I'm doing, I'm putting my all into this, after this I'm done, you can try and beg and plead all you want, I'm going all in on this. So now that we know Rika's in it 100%, very interested to see how things progress from here. But this picks up immediately after their conversation with like the president, where just Keiichi, Irie, and Rika went in. So without further ado, let's just jump into it, shall we?
昨日の繰り返しになっちゃった感じだったな。両者とも昨日と同じ話の繰り返しだ。
相変わらず平行線？慎重に様子を見るからとか、そういう話に？
そんなところです。週一の訪問で様子を見て、だいたい1ヶ月後に改めて判断をするというような話なのですが。
あのおじのところに里子を1ヶ月も閉じ込めろって言うんで、その1ヶ月間で里子の心がどれだけ傷つけられるか。どうしてその
もちろんその点についても前原さんは私も里子ちゃんの去年の状況を説明したつもりです。ですが
里子ちゃんが助けを求めない限り緊急性はない。
部外者の意見で恐縮だけど、里子ちゃんに助けを求めてもらうってのは無理なのかい？
里子ちゃんが逃げ出したらサトシ君の部屋のものを捨ててしまうと脅されてるらしいわ。ひどい話ね。
相変わらず向こうはその一点張り。里子は助けを求められない負い目があるってのに。
The purpose of a child consultation center is to protect children. I was starting to get angry the more I thought about it. But as I thought about it some more, I realized that they were just trying to do their job. It was just that our opinions differed about the degree of urgency.
こっちは里子ちゃんを早く助けて、向こうは里子ちゃんが助けを求めたらねという。なんとか歩み寄る方法。里子ちゃんへの助けがないまでにも、その SOS。
その辺はこちらもいろいろと訴えました。向こうもそれを真剣に聞いて。
最終的な雰囲気だと参考に留められた感じでしたね。
Damn it. When the head of the office showed up, I thought I could change things today, but everything went the same as yesterday, and we still weren't able to persuade them. However, I'm sure we're making progress. It might seem like they're withstanding our blows at first glance, but they're feeling the weight behind them. We're not going to give up just because it didn't work out today. We're going to fight until they get off their butts and save Satoko.
さっきみんなには明日もやるよって声はかけた。ただ今日よりは人数が減るかもしれないね。
なんだかせっかくここまで来たのに、
ここが私たちの限界ってわけなんですか。
Damn it. We can't give up yet. We might have less people tomorrow, but we're not going to call off our fourth appeal.
たとえ誰も来なくなってもレナは行くよ。さとこちゃんを助ける判断を下してくれるまで。
それは俺もだ。俺も絶対にくじけない。ありがとな、ミオン。来られる人だけでも構わん。窓から見てたけど、みんなの横断幕、結構プレッシャーになってるようだったぜ。
ゆうべ夜鍋して作った甲斐がありました。
いりえ、助けなんかもありがとうなのです。
いえいえ、これくらいの協力しかできないのが悔しいです。
僕ももっと協力しようと思いますです。僕はサトコを救えないと思って諦めてきましたが、今日ケイイチとイリエが所長とやり合うのを見ていて、僕にはまだまだ頑張れることがあると思いましたです。
Rika-chan was always watching us from afar. Made me a little happy to see Rika-chan getting more active in the whole movement. Wonder what Rika-chan can do.
サトコに会えたら助けを求めるように説得するつもりなのです。それは多分僕にしかできないことなのです。
The same thing was on all our minds. The issue will be resolved the moment Satoko seeks help. And nobody can say that to her, because we all know that she's dealing with the memories of her brother. Satoko, I know how you feel about Satoshi, but this is different. Please ask the Child Consultation Center to help you. As long as you're seeking help, they're ready to save you any time. Don't be afraid that your uncle is going to destroy Satoshi's room. Please, ask for them to save you. Without even knowing Satoshi's face, I could never say that to her. The only person who can ask her to seek help is Rika-chan. She's been living with her for the past year and she's like family.
そうだね。私も今日それを言ったけれど、心には届かなかった。悲しいけれど、さとこちゃんの心に言葉を届かせられるのは、リカちゃんを置いて他にはいないと思う。
自分にその力がないのが悲しいですけど、リカちゃまは無二の親友。あんたにできなかったらもうどうに。
さとこちゃんの心を解きほぐせたら、それで全てが解決するとすら断言できるでしょう。案外私たちがこうして押しかけるよりもいい方法かもしれません。
そんなことはありません。レナが言った通りです。双方が手を伸ばさないと届かない。だからサトコも手を伸ばすべきだと思っただけで、そしてそれは僕も同じなのです。みんなが力を合わせないと奇跡は起こせない。僕だけが諦めていて力を合わせなかった。だから奇跡が起こせなかった。だから僕も力を合わせる。だからサトコも手をつかむ。言いたいことがうまく説明。ごめんなさいです。
Rika-chan is usually a quiet girl, but she talks a lot every once in a while. Just because she's quiet doesn't mean that she's not thinking about anything. In fact, because she's quiet, she must have a lot inside her heart that she's never expressed. We're going to continue our appeal to the consultation center. Rika-chan is going to persuade Satoko. This is the best approach, or at least the best one that I can think of. It might be slow and quiet, but now that I'm in the game, I can't quit until I win. If I give up, I'd lose everything that I bet on. We're going to save Satoko. We just have to work together. But obviously, we don't have much time left to fight. What to do? We're definitely going to have less people tomorrow. In other words, we can't intimidate the Child Consultation Center any more than we did today. Couldn't see any way to break our deadlock with the Consultation Center, so I had no choice but to swallow down the irritation starting to boil up in my chest to pretend not to notice it.
もうだいぶ暗くなってきました。ミオンさん、解散の号令をかけられた方がいいでしょう。私も今夜はまた実行委員会なので、このまま直接集会所に行った方が良さそうです。
それを言ったら私もじゃん。いけねいけね。
That meant I had to go too. While it wouldn't be a big deal if I missed the meeting, I should still go. I don't understand most of the things they're even talking about there, but I don't want to be rude. I'd have no choice but to go.
ならもう今日はこれで終わりにした方がいいね。相当急いで帰らないと時間ギリギリになっちゃうよ。
Mion thanked all the people who came today and told them to meet at the same place at the same time tomorrow. And with that, the third day of our desperate appeal was over.
もしもし、俺、ケイ、帰ってから食べるよ。 だからうちに帰らずこのまま集会所に行っちゃうよ。父さんはもう行ってるんだね。わかったわかった。了解。
I called my mom and told her that I'd be going to the meeting without coming home. I'd get there kind of early, but if I went home first, I wouldn't make it in time. Shit, wrong button. Mion, Rika-chan, and Irie were going to head there with me. Shion said that she was also coming, and now Reina didn't want to go home alone either.
うちのお父さんは今日職場の飲み会で遅くなるって聞いてるから、
Oh,
レナも行
interesting.
く。お邪魔にならないかな
なりはしないよ。むしろ若い子の関心があることが分かった方がみんな喜ぶでしょ。
平均年齢がぐんと若返りますです。
私も久しぶりに君吉のおじいちゃんに挨拶したいですし。
We all headed toward the Furode shrine in the dim light. The light was on in the assembly building. Some people had already arrived.
こんばんは。皆さんお早いですね。
あんれ、みおんちゃんに大勢来たね。入江の先生もこんばんは。
どうもこんばんは。皆さんもお早いですね。
他になんもすることがねえんだけよ。
More people started coming into the meeting hall. Everyone seemed to come so early. Gross. I should probably come earlier from now on, too.
あれあれ、今日はハイカラな靴が多いなと思ったら、若い人が大勢来てるじゃないの。シオンちゃんもお久しぶり。今日はどうしたの？
Everyone bowed to the newest arrival. It was the mayor, Kimiyoshi-san. He strode into the room with the other committee members.
どうもお久しぶりです。お姉たちと遊んでて、そのままの流れで遊びに来ちゃいました。
そうかいそうかい。よく来たね。シオンちゃんも綿流しのお祭り、今年はぜひ。
今年はぜひ遊びに来ようと思います。何しろケイちゃんが司会のオークションはぜひ見たいですし。
前原くんの司会もそうだけど、これからは祭りのいろんな仕事を少しずつ若い子に移していかないといけないね。そうだそうだ、みおんちゃんに相談。ちょっとこっち来てくれないかな。
はいはい、どうしました？ひょっとして模擬店部会の横田さん。
いやね。
Mion headed outside with Kimiyoshi-san and the other committee members. There's only one room in the building, so they have to go outside if they want to talk in private.
今日が木曜日だからお祭りまであと3日なんだね。圭一くんの準備は万端なのかな？
準備も何もねえな。あるのは覚悟と出たとこ勝負のアドリブだけだよ。
圭一は苦し紛れな方が面白いことを言いますです。
As they under pressure, he both can do his best, but he can also do his worst. It's kind of a coin flip. Everyone laughed. We continued to chat about the festival. We talked about what kind of festival young people like us would want to see, that sort of stuff. Suddenly, Mion tapped me on the shoulder.
ケイちゃん、ちょっと話が。
Yeah, I kind of figured because, Oreo got that phone call, right? About like, oh, all these people from Minamizawa are showing up. Like, is this like approved? Are y'all behind this and whatnot? Like, oh no, I would never fucking help that little brat. And then another day comes by, like, it's not just Hinamizawa now. Like, there's a bunch of Okonomiya people here too. Like, yeah, I kind of figured that eventually it was gonna catch Oreo's attention. I thought last time when we went to one of these meetings, like, because Oishi came into the conversation about it, I thought he was gonna be the one telling us, like, oh, you gotta go talk to Miss Sonozaki. Clearly, she's in charge of everything. She's making everything happen. If you really want to get at him, you have to take care of her first. Like, I thought Oishi should be the one convincing us, but I'm like, after that phone call, I knew, like, eventually we're gonna have to have a run-in with this woman. She gestured for me to follow her out without letting the others know. What did she want? Once outside, I see Mion, Chie-sensei, and the principal.
あ、知恵先生、校長先生。どうも、こんばんは。
Chie-sensei responded to my greeting, but the principal must not have heard me since he didn't. His eyes were closed. He seemed lost in thought. That sight caused our happy, chatty feelings to cool off quickly. My intuition told me this had to be about something bad.
前原くんにちょっとだけ お話があります。
あまり良くない話みたいで。
うん。明日もみんなでまた交渉に行くんですね。
ええ、相談所が腰を上げるまで今日ほど集まるかは分かりませんが、明日もまた集まろうとみんなに言ってあります。だよな、ミオン。
前原くん、集まる人たちに約束した手前もあるでしょうから、明日はとりあえず仕方がありませんが、それを最後にしばらく様子を見ませんか？
Thanks to the advice from Ush-san last night, I already had an idea of the situation.
千恵先生のそれも、これ以上話が大きくなると、村のお偉方も見て見ぬふりができなくなる。だからここいら辺で自重しろってことですか？
前原くん、私はあなた方のしていることは正しいと思う。だからあなたは正しいと思ったことを堂々。でも
She stopped talking after that. Jia-sensei was supporting us until just yesterday. She even came to the child consultation center with us on the second day. So for her to start saying completely the opposite, felt slightly dizzy from the shock of it.
ケイちゃん、千恵先生は個人的には私たちを支持してくれてる。でも
教育委員会とかそういうあたりから何かの
千恵先生は圧力なんかに屈する人じゃ。ケイちゃんは千恵先生がどれだけ正義心にかつてこの分校が分校と認められず単なる廃校の校舎でしかなかった時、千恵先生は教育委員会を無視してやってきてくれて、私たちの先生になってくれた。
You can tell about how courageous she was in the past. Like, I get it, you don't want me to besmirch her name, but like, come on now. I think Mion told me about that story before. The school was closed when the dam conflict happened. However, the village children still came to school to learn. There were no teachers there, though, because the school wasn't officially operating. That was when Chie-sensei arrived. After they won the dam conflict, the Sonozaki family and other villagers made an appeal, and the school's existence was finally approved. Our school did not have an easy start. The government was against it, but the villagers forced them to approve. Chie-sensei came along with us on our appeal yesterday. Yeah, that's kind of what they're setting up, though. It's like, Chie has no problem standing up to, like, the government and whatnot. But when, like, the Hinamizawa officials have a problem, then it's like, oh, now you gotta fucking duck your head. That was very courageous of her, but now people who want to close the school are paying attention to what we're doing.
結論から言うと、
okay, I see. It's not even... See, I want to keep thinking things are going to come back to the officials, right? Which they kind of touched on, but like... They wouldn't show us that scene of Oreo getting the phone call for no reason, right? They wouldn't show us her reaction to the Hojo kid's name being brought up, right? Like, I feel like eventually there has to be some kind of run-in with her. But I do see what they're saying regarding Chie about why she can't be participating.
千恵先生はもう私たちには協力できないって。
Right. Okay, I see. Chie-sensei stared at the ground as Mion spoke. I'd never seen her look so sad.
私だけの問題ならこの身がどうなってもいい。一人の生徒のために戦えず教師なんて名乗りたくない。でも私たちの学校の存在までは脅かせないのです。
I don't know who told her this. Whoever it was, they warned her not to escalate things around Satoko's case. Oh, I can only imagine. They threatened the existence of our school to make her obey and pressured her with responsibilities she couldn't take on her own.
俺さ、昨日大石さんからそんな話を聞かされてるんだ。それもまさにこの場所でさ、これ以上騒ぎを大きくすると、北条家を未だによく思ってない年寄りどもと対立することになる。みたいなの。
大石にそんな話、そう間違った話じゃないよ。
Mion looked at the ground along with Chie-sensei. I always thought Chie-sensei and Mion were stronger people, so seeing them both hanging their heads like this is hopeless made me feel like we're being pushed into a dead end, and I hated it.
大体、お前、さっきまで、そして明日も来られる人は来てくれって、そのミオンと一緒に集会所にやってきて、どこで弱気なミオンと入れ替わっちまったんだよ。
When I said when did she get swapped, I immediately thought of one thing. The mayor took her outside the building earlier. Did he?
そっか、さっき村長がミオンを外に呼んだのは、そう。
まあ。
It felt painful to see her fake a smile like that. She was only out here with him for about 10 minutes. The hell did he tell her that crushed her spirit?
ミオンもチエ先生も、俺の知ってる二人は、 最高に強い誇れて、その二人がほんの一晩二晩で意見を覆すことになるようなどんな圧力があったかは俺には想像がつかない。
And feel like getting mad at them. They were just as passionate about saving Satoko as I was. Towards them, I felt nothing but pity.
前原君、私はなんて言っていい？
ええ、千恵先生が謝ることじゃないです。
I could feel an angry tone entering my voice. I'd had enough, yeah?
教えてくれ。どうして村の年寄りたちは未だ北条家を嫌うんだ。もうダム戦争は終わっ、残された里子には。なのにどうしてここまで嫌うんだ。誰が嫌ってる？誰のせいだ。そいつに俺が話をつける。
北条家を嫌ってる人間。
何？お前は何を言ってるんだ。
ダム戦争で北条家は村の旧敵だった。村全体でそういう風に盛り上げたからね。その先般である夫婦が死に、残された里子に罪がないのは誰もがうすうす知っている。でも北条家を許そうと誰かが号令をかけたわけじゃ。
その辺は私も補足します。
シオン。
It wasn't just Shion who appeared. The whole gang? Ren and Riki-chan were there with her. Yeah. They'd come out to check on me and overheard what we were talking about.
北条家をスケープゴートにして結束してきたこの村は未だ北条家に怯えているんです。怯えているというのは、北条家と縁があると思われたら自分も村からスケープゴートにされてしまうかもしれないと恐れていたのです。
In other words, if you help a member of the Hojo family, you might get attacked by the village just like they did. I still feel that way, years after the conflict.
そんなことってあるの？だって学校ではみんなさとこちゃんと普通に接してたよ。
もちろんそれは村のお年寄りだけの話なのです。でもそれは村の神部でもあります。
みんなはそれを多分園崎本家のバッチャの意思だろうと思ってる。でもバッチャだってやっぱり恐れてる。自分が北条家を擁護したら村の年寄り連中に対して。
なんだかややこしい。つまりどういうことなん？俺は誰を殴りゃいいんだ。
Okay, gee. God damn, it's too complicated. I can't punch a fucking idea in the face. God damn it.
つまり本当は誰も北条家を嫌ってなんかいないんだよ。
Yeah, everyone's too pussy to admit it. Yeah, I
誰
got
も
it.
が内心はもう許してもいい。でもそれを口に出せない。自分以外はみんな未だ北条家を敵視してると信じてる。
つまり相互に誤解しているってこと？
I mean, that is pretty much at the core of this entire fucking story. Everyone misunderstands each other.
そういうことです。個別に聞けばわかります。誰も里子のことを嫌ってなんかいないんです。両親が死んでそれがけじめになったと思っています。だからばあさんもその後は北条家に一切関わるなと号令を出しました。でも北条家を許すとは号令を出せなかった。
Oh, Jesus, with the fucking semantics. Don't bother them anymore. Oh, well, she didn't say we could forgive them, though, so I guess, like...
それはきっと僕のお父さんのせいもあるのです。
リカちゃんの？どうして？
僕のお父さんはずっとのんびりと構えていたので、村の人たちからリーダー失格だとずっと言われてきたのです。
リカちゃんのお父さんは冷静に状況が読める人だったと思う。でも祭りのように反ダムで燃え上がった人々はもっと過激なタカ派のリーダーを求めていたんだよ。だからバッチャはひなみ沢を一つにまとめるため。
つまりタカ派リーダーを演じてる手前、自分から。
お年寄りは主義を曲げないことを模範と思うからね。最初に掲げた方針はなかなか変えられない。
そんなのだってそれじゃ誰もが人のせいに。自分が許すと村の人に陰口を叩かれるかもしれないから許してあげられないなんてあんまりだよ。
当時はね、貧しい家なんかには保証金が欲しくて立ち退きを受け入れてもいいと思ってる人がでもそれを口に出すとはばかられる。そんな中それを堂々と公言したのが北条家だったんだよ。それに勇気づけられて立ち退き派が派閥を作りそうな勢いになった。みんなも今日までのお役所とのやり取りをしてて分かったと思うけど、村の総意であるか否かがとても大切なこと。 だから実はダム戦争のひなみ沢は戦争どころか内部分裂状態だったんだよ。
僕のお父さんが日和見主義だったから、そう。お父さんはダムなんてできるわけがない。きっと話し合いで平和的に解決できるという。そしてそれが立ち退き派を許す温床になったと非難されたのです。
立ち退き派って不思議な響きだね。初めて聞くよ。村の人はよくダムの推進派って言わない？
She's right. They usually claim that their enemies supported the project itself.
立ち退き派っていうよりダム推進派って方が悪っぽそうな感じでしょ。立ち退きじゃ単に喧嘩を嫌って逃れるだけの平和的なイメージがある。でもダム推進派なら
But if you call them damn project supporters, it makes them sound like, oh, they're on the other side. They're the enemy. They want to wish us ill will.
なるほどな。ダム推進派っていうとなんだか利敵行為というか、村をダム湖に沈めようとする
イメージ戦略というものです。
Hi, Irie. Coach had appeared, yep. He came outside after noticing how long we'd been gone.
当時のひなみ沢には戦争直前の全体主義のような空気がハト派のフルデシでは逆に分裂を招いた。なら全体を一丸とするにはタカ派になるしかないと当時の園崎家は考えたんです。
ちょっと話が見えてきました。つまりこういうことですね。村を反ダムで一つにまとめるために北条家に裏切り者のレッテルを貼って徹底攻撃して見せしめにした。それがあまりに集中的だったので立ち退き派の人たちは恐ろしくなり終始替えせざるを得なかった。
北条家と親交があればダム推進派なのだろうと疑われました。だから誰もが怖がって北条家に近づかなかった。すれ違っても見て見ぬふりをし、話しかけられても無視をしたのです。
もちろんそれは北条夫妻の2人を指名したはずなのですが、その結果おじおば夫婦の家も皮肉ですね。その時の冷遇の恨みが募り、聡子ちゃんにひどい仕打ちをする温床となっているのですから。
Her uncle and aunt were not in support of the dam project, but because of Satoko's parents, they were also attacked. After Satoko's parents died, they were forced to take care of their 2 children. It finally makes sense. You can see the whole picture now.
ダム戦争は終わった上に聡子ちゃんの両親は亡くなった。ならそういう変な遺恨は全部水に流そうって言い出した園崎家がちゃんと終了宣言を出すべきじゃないのかな。
そこで最初の話、北条家に温情的な宣言を出したら園崎家当主はダム戦争当時の幹部級。
舐められたらおしまいってのはどうやらお役所だけじゃなく園崎家もそうみたいだな。
これは私が直接バッチャに聞いたからバッチャは北条家は放っておけとの号令を出すまでが正。そして自分が死んで当主が変わったらその就任の時にダム戦争の完全終了宣言を出して北条家に対する遺恨を完全に流そうと、そういう話になってるんだよ。これはお母さんも知ってる。その話は大ババ様の世間体とかいう
話をちょいとミオンと千恵先生にさっき脅しをかけたのは、その連中はどうなんだ。まだ北条家を恨んでるのか。
それが実は君吉のおじいちゃんだって誰だってもう北条家を恨んでなんかないってんです。
Okay, so this is what gets us in audience with audio, huh? KJ has the realization like, okay, so the one person I really need to influence, really need to put the charisma to him is the woman up top, and everyone should follow suit. It should all fall down like a house of cards. Like dominoes.
つまり悲しい話なんですが、北条家と親交があったら後ろ指を刺されるかもしれないと未だに恐れているんです。
That's the thing. They keep saying the Hojo family, like it's one little girl at this point. Like obviously that doesn't. I guess that clearly does not matter to them because Oreo didn't specifically say, "Hey, we can ease up because it's just one girl at this point." But like, goddamn, that's so ridiculous. We can't interact with the family at all. But it's like I mean, I guess at this point, since Tepe stepped back into the picture, sure, it's technically a family, but like, for the last damn near a year now, it's just been one girl. There's no family there, it's just one girl. The fact that they're all so terrified of being like, we can't dare show any form of support towards this one little girl simply because of her last name is so ridiculous. The fact that even, the village elders like, nope, we can't show any empathy towards this little girl because of her last name. God forbid people think bad of me for helping a little girl because she got that last name. Like, oh, it's so dumb.
でもリカちゃんとか監督は普通にさとこちゃんと接してるじゃないですか。
私は若く、そもそも教会にそれほどのしがらみを持ちそしてリカちゃんは特別です。なぜなら彼女はお社様の
お社様は人と鬼の相入れぬ存在を言うわ。だからつまり
村にいられない身である北条家の人間を引き取っても納得されたというわけか。
After hearing all this, I'm beginning to understand how difficult it was for Satoko to live in this village. She always acted bright and cheerful in school and in the club. I thought that was her whole world, but I had no idea how she felt when she was walking around alone in the village. She probably went grocery shopping even knowing that people were going to ignore her. She felt the coldness from them, but she was standing strong on her feet. I had no idea she was going through something like that. I knew she went through tough times during the dam conflict, but I had no clue that she was struggling to this day.
なんて悲しい。そしてなんてバカバカしい話。
レナもそう思うか。俺も全く同じに思ったぜ。
誰もがさとこちゃんのことを何とも思ってないのに関わると何か良くないことがあると思ってる。悪いのは誰なの？誰でもないの？そう思わせる風土や世間体が悪いの？
誰も悪くない。なのに他の誰かを気にして自分も許せないか。
うん、そういう空気は良い方向に流れてる時はいいんだよ。思いやりがあって連帯感のあるいいご近所付き合いを生み出す。でも北条家の件は正反。そういう思い込みがカビのように蔓延しちゃう。腐った畳はどうすると思う？捨てて新しくするしかないんだよ。
じゃあ村長たちは自分たちが俺たちのやっていることを黙認。村の誰かという意もしない存在に後ろ指を刺されるかもしれないと怯えているから黙認できないと。そういうわけな。
私はその意もしない誰かを、だって誰もがそのいない誰かに気遣ってる。でもその誰かは存在しない。人じゃない。
Shion's theory sounded interesting. Everyone follows the rules because they're afraid of that someone. However, even the leaders of the village are afraid of the same thing. Everyone in the village is following the rules because they're afraid of someone who doesn't even exist. They still follow the rules of dam conflict, thinking that they'll be cursed if they forgive Satoko. What the hell is that someone? They can only call it the curse of Oyashiro-sama. Oyashiro-sama cursed the Hojo family because they supported the dam project. They still believe that, and Satoko is struggling because of it.
お社様はむしろ可愛いとすら思っています。そんなことでお社様の名前を使わないであげてほしいのです。
Riki-chan made a sad face. She's the shrine maiden for Oyashiro-sama and the reincarnation of Oyashiro-sama. I don't think there's a curse in this village at all. Everyone is just convinced that there is.
ってことはだ。つまり一番悪いのどうやらこの村丸ごとってことになりそうだな。
うん、私もそう思った。私もついさっきまでは相談所に何度も陳情をすればきっと聞き入れてもらえると思ってたけど、そんなのは何の解決にもならないって今わかった。
Nah, we gotta feel the song a bit. Ooh. Okay.
カビだ畳か上だけ拭いたって無駄だよ。俺たちが相談所に訴えてどうやら畳の根元から腐ったやつを根こそぎ。
その畳の根元って
ちけえな。多分20メートル以内にほとんど揃ってるんじゃねえのか。
ちょっとケイちゃん、レナも。
Nah. Nah, he ain't stopping
何を
us.
始めるつもりなの？
What must be done?
ミオ、お前は確かにサトコのことを仲間だと思っていても、この村としがらみのあるミオンとチエ先生が、だがな、なんのしがらみもねえ俺。
前原さん、まさかこの場で。
俺はやるぜ、腐った畳なんか。なんだ、レナもやるか？
That's my go.
私はこう見えても容赦ない
Oh,
わ。
I'm well aware.
でもレナの場合は、お前本気でやるとなったら学校一つを爆破くらいはする気がするぜ。
What a crazy insinuation.
圭一くんだってやると決めたら金属バットで闇討ちくらいはしそうな気がするな。
Meanwhile, Rodrigo's just in the background like, haha, yeah, guys. Yeah, imagine that.
お互い敵に。じゃあ行くか。ミオンの立場は、だからミオンは立場上、ただしやばいと感じたら今日は部活以上にやばいぜ。本気のもう一つ上の本気で行くからな。
He's damn serious. As the next head of her family, she shouldn't agree with me, but she stared in silent approval of what I was about to do.
わかった。ケイちゃんが捨て身の覚悟で私もやるよ。
そうでなくちゃな。見てろ、ガツンと言ってやるからな。
しーちゃんはどうする？私は幸い
Yeah,
失うものなんてありませんので
Shio don't give two fucks about her family connections.
協力します。
知恵先生と校長先生のですが、今日は学校じゃ、だからどうか俺たちのやることを見過ごしてください。
そうですね。私は今は教師ではありません。私も校長先生もあなたたちに意志を託します。
私は協力させていただきます。村を出てけと言われたら診療所を畳むくらいの覚悟はありますよ。それに未来のメイドさんを守るためにご主人様が一肌脱ぐのは当然のことです。
We'll definitely take more numbers on our side, but like maybe dial that one down a notch. Just, you know, I know that's kind of your bread and butter, but like let's just, you know, turn that dial just down a few notches. So let's not bring up the I can feel everyone's power flowing into me. Not even going to try and cool down. I need to be fired up for something like this. As I turned back, I noticed Oishi-san and my dad. Didn't know how long they'd been standing there.
前原さん、なんだか燃え上がっちゃってるみたいですね。
大石さん、昨日教えて男には降りられない戦いがあるって。危険牌を強打ちしてでも貫かなくちゃなら。
圭一、
父さん、確かにご近所付き合いも大事だけどな。
父さんは止め。
え？
He gave me a big smile. Never seen my dad smile like that
お
before.
前が今男には折れちゃいかん時が、その時は男の人生のどこかにあるものなんだ。圭一にとってのその時が今だというなら、
W
父さんは
dad.
何も。
圭一くんのお父さんかっこいいね。
当たり前だろ。俺の親父だぜ。俺の半分程度はかっこいい。
私はひなみ沢の部だからどちらの味方もできませんが、前原さんの乗るか反るかの大勝負、どうせ切るならど真ん中ってのがおやすさんの口癖でしたよ。危険牌を切ると覚悟を決めたら、降りるならベタ降り、勝負ならど真ん中とはっきりした方がいい。麻雀は得点が倍々計算だからな。変に弱気に 2,3 度上がっても一度の大きな上がりにすぐひっくり返されちゃう。勝負手の時はとことん強気がいいんだ。おや、前原さんのお父さんも
I knew that was immediately going to catch his attention. Like, oh, you play mahjong, do you? They start talking about mahjong together. Hell yeah. Oh, I love it. They're over there like, yeah, Keiichi, you gotta get up there and do it. Yeah, absolutely. We'll be watching you closely. And then just one of them makes a mahjong reference. Immediately, the two of them is like, oh, you mahjong? I mahjong as well. Oh. And then they're like, okay, well, they're preoccupied. Let's go get the show on the road. This is going to be interesting. It very much is. Someone from the committee came out and told us to come inside for the meeting. It was time for it to start.
よっしゃ、行こうぜ。ようやく土俵に上がれるって感じだぜ。
心情の時は一人相撲のように感じていたのは、
ああ、本当の土俵はこっちだったんだ。俺たちは3日間 全然的違いな相手と戦っていたんだ。
True.
行こうぜ。
Someone pulled my shirt. Rika? Here's Rika-chan.
圭一、
Logo?
リカちゃんはサトコの一番の友人だ。だから俺とレナがやることを。だがもしサトコを救うために少しでも
You
力を
know
貸して
she's
くれ
gonna
るな
step on stage.
あの石頭ども。
ら打ち破るさ。前に言ったぜ。
Yeah, I'm not going to try to do it. I'm going to do it.
こんなの金魚すくいの網より楽勝でぶち抜いてやる。
は一体どうなってしまう
You
のでしょう。
shut up.
村の風土を指してシオンも面白い例えをするわね。圭一にはお社様のたたりを。
He will break it. Keiichi has the power to break everything. It's not just Keiichi's power, though. Because everyone is working together, Keiichi's able to break anything. This energy is more powerful than the lucky 6 on the
いい
die.
んじゃない。実力で運命を打ち破る。
Everyone followed Keiichi and entered the assembly hall. I followed in after them. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this with Keiichi. If this doesn't work out, that's it for me. I'm going to give it my very best. Hell yeah. Fuck. Oh, I'm here for it. Oh, I'm here for it. Loving this background music too. Really hate that I can't, like, really jam out to it though. A civil servant's preparations. Oh. Go on.
そうですか。裏に町会もその鬼ヶ淵死守同盟とかいう同活団体もいないと分かれば、これで安心。北条聡子さんの件は特別扱いせずに慎重に対応してください。
はい。ひなみ沢の総意でないと分かれば。
しかし私は好きになれませんね。裏に誰がいようがいなかろうが常に公平な対応をするのが公務員です。同活がまかり通るようなことがあったという先例を残したからひなみ沢は特別扱いだという妙なルールができてしまったのではない。
まあ確かに所長のおっしゃる通りだとは思いますが、一応ですね。
わざわざ自治の係長が連合町会が背景にいないことを確認してくれたんですから、ひなみ沢だからどうすべきかとお伺いを立てること自体。
はい、申し訳ございません。
裏に村がいると分かっても対応を焦るべきではあり、北条聡子さんの件はくれぐれも異例の措置は取らないよう担当に念を押しておいてくださいよ。
Okay. So it seems like the manager kinda has, you know, wants to push it a bit further, but the fucking chief that they talked to today is like, no special treatment, no matter what. Don't take anything into consideration. You treat it as any other case. Pussy. Let's go, Keiichi. I want to see that gang.
すみません。議事の前にお話が。
Oh, immediately. They're not even waiting. They're coming in and be like, all right, I know y'all want to get this meeting on the road, but hold up. We got something to hit you with. I'm not gonna lie, I'm getting kind of antsy. I'm like really excited to see how this goes down. They all knew immediately that I was going to say something about Satoko. Good. I guess they weren't just old for show.
今日は最終確認だから私的な話は後にしてもらえるかい。
I ignored him and continued talking, attaboy.
ミオンや知恵先生を経由しないで遠回しなのは好きじゃない。直接やろうじゃないですか。
Everyone went quiet. Attaboy. Call him out. Call him out. Tell him to be a man. Nobody there wanted to be involved in a conversation about the Hojo
ここに
family.
いる誰もが北条聡子が今まあ積極的に助けな面倒くさい人も多いだろうし、でも俺らは聡子は仲間だ。仲間を救うために全てを投げ出す覚悟。それを
ケイチ君、その話わしらが言いたいのは。
強く言うと何か問題があるんですか。
そりゃあるに決まってんだろ。
Someone with a stern voice spoke out to me. I'd gotten under their skin.
じゃあ何ですか。その問題ってやつをお子様の俺にも分かるように説明してくれませんか。
あんなもう徒党組んで
お役所に押しかける時代じゃないよ。
The subject wasn't even Satoko anymore. All they had to offer was a bunch of excuses.
あんたらの時代の話なんか聞いてねえし、こいつは俺の戦争、それに参戦しようってからには俺の敵か味方か、どっちなんだてめえ。俺の味方か、それとも敵なのか。
Mutter, 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 mutter. Those are the things that came out of this boy's mouth. Young people these days don't know how to be polite. Oh no, he tried the polite route. The whole room lit up and started filling with the smell of gunpowder. However, none of my allies let themselves get swept up in the commotion and maintained their harsh stares. Those expressions made me feel as though I had a million supporters behind me. That's gang. I was standing in front only as the representative. It wasn't my fight alone. This was everyone's fight. Because of that realization, the fierce looks the old people were giving me didn't intimidate me at all. Attaboy.
敵とか味方としかに村はダム戦争。そして君の言う通り、あれは終わったか。
あんたらの都合なんか聞いてない。俺と俺の仲間、ダム戦争の話なんて一言も聞いてない。あんた耳鼻科行った方がいいぜ。
お前、年金生の先輩を親の顔が見てみたいな。
My dad, standing behind me, gave an apologetic and bitter smile. Yeah, I'd like to have a word with your parents. Hi, parent here.
失礼、こんな顔で。
あんた親どういう育て方？
私は親と圭一をまっすぐに育ててこれたかどうか、胸を張れるかどうかはわかりません。
My dad paused. In the next moment, however, his expression changed to a clear W dad.
ただ、前原圭一という一人の男がどうしても腑に落ちないことがあると言ってこれだけの面々を相手に訴えている。そこには親子関係などない。
W. Come in like, you know what? There's someone saying before you with something to say. It does not matter who his father is. It does not matter how well his father raised him or not. You keep me the fuck out of this. This is about him. W.
ただ一人の男としての主張が私の勘はどうだろうとあまり関係はないかと思います。
W. Silence filled the room as the old people sat there with their mouths agape. Oya-san broke that silence with laughter.
あなた。
質問していいですか。ダム戦争はもう終わってるから、私たちが相談所に私たちにも分かるように説明してもらえますか。
Yeah. Reina's voice remained perfectly level, as though the matter didn't concern her. However, I could see the fury in her eyes. Oh, absolutely. I was probably the only one who noticed that fury. The old people seemed like they'd rather deal with her than me.
ダム戦争が終われば、村はそりゃ戦争中はでも戦争が終わればで村はお役所と仲直りをしたんだ。ひなみ沢は国じゃ日本の中にあるお役所の世話になりながらやっていく。だから村とお役所は仲良くいかなくちゃならねえんだ。
そうです。お役所と仲良くするのは大切なことだと思います。
Listen to Reina-chan, she understands this at least. My boss boy ought to learn from her. I heard little bits and pieces from the noise of the crowd. Hit him with it, hit him with it, hit him with the 1-2. You lure him into that false sense of security, like, oh yeah, you are right about that, and BAM! However...
そうだね。
You gotta hit him with the Columbo. Oh, but one more thing.
そんなわけで、ひなみ沢もお役所との関係を修復しようと、ダム戦争終結後は協調路線で進めているというわけ。
Exactly, just like Mia-chan said. The old man cheered. However, Shion was the next to open her mouth. Ah! Never thought you'd catch me cheering for Shion, but here we are.
そんなこんなで、今やお役所と村の町会は別途、年に一度の親睦会である町会の温泉旅行には、お役所から世話人が2人も同行します。私的同行ということになってますが、もちろん旅行代金のほとんどは補助金を交付されてますし、他にもいっぱいですよね。新年会忘年会の付け届け、町会のあらゆる催しに対する膨大な援助金、綿流しだってそうですよ。お役所の補助金助成は数日まり、綿流し開催にかかる経費のほとんど、ダム戦争後綿流しのお祭りとその裏側にはお役所からの莫大な補助金があったからなわ。だからお役所に嫌われたら綿流しは来年にもだから今のひなみ沢はお役所に尻尾を振ってるんですよね、おじいちゃん。
Cook 'em, bitch.
しおんちゃん。
Cook 'em.
お前なんでそんなことまで知ってるんだ。
たまに私がお姉だったりしてますので。
なんだ黙って聞いてりゃ俺たちのやってることにケチをつける理由ってやつがレナつまり何だってんだ。
I mean, I think it's pretty straightforward. They don't want to cause trouble with the government because they want money.
つまり要約すると、お役所の人と癒着してるからご機嫌を損ねられないってことなんだろうね。
The whole room went into a panic after Reina summed it up so simply. Some of them were ashamed that we hit the nail on the head. Some of them were enraged by our ignorance. Some of them were simply angry about our disrespectful attitudes. All of them combined to throw the room into a chaos of chattering and stomping.
静かに静かに
They all settled down after Kimiyoshi-san raised his voice. By the time they quieted, the mayor had a terrible look on his face.
お役所と議題のすり替えもいい。そんなこと言ってごちゃごちゃにしてもいいかい。ひなみ沢はダム戦争の時に当時はそういうマイナスイメージを避っ、そしてそれはダム戦争が終わった今となってはそういうイメージは払拭していかないといけない。じゃないと村の未来にとってわかるかい。敵とか味方とかそういう喧嘩の次元な問題じゃん。
つまりさ、ケイちゃんたちがみんなで盛り上がるとせっかくいい感じになってきた友好的ムードが台無しになってしまうって言ってるわけだね。
The old people nodded as Mion spoke. They were assuming that Mion was on their side.
兄ちゃん、友好的ムード、村の子が虐待を受けているのを訴えちゃいけないってことなの？
平たく言うと相談所はだから横やりは勘弁してください。お役所は立場上横やりをやめろと強く言えない。だから普段たくさん助成金を恵んであげてるんだから、そちらの内部で
なんだ、つまりひなみ沢の懲戒ってのは役所の犬ってわけだな。
Yeah, get under their skin.
お前、なんちゅう口の利き方なんね。
Respect these nuts.
お前らこそよく言葉をまさかとは思うが、聡子が旧的法。
そんな聡子ちゃんがもっと対極的な見地から君の陳情を少しこの辺で控えた方がいいんじゃないかって相談所だって無視。先日大勢度を仕掛けた君の熱意、圭一君の伝えたいことはこれ以上は何も生み出さない。やりすぎだと。
圭一君、私すっごく面白いよ。ほら、あそこに額に入ってる筆字の。
Reina pointed at the wall. Everyone followed the direction of her finger. There were very many different picture frames all over the walls of the assembly hall. They mostly had to do with the dam conflict and were usually about glorifying the Onagahuchi Guardians. Reina was pointing at a framed article. Kimiyoshi-san wrote it, way back when he was leader of the Guardians during the dam conflict.
特に真ん中が平和的かつ民主的な話し合いを求めるも、政府とその傀儡である電源会社総裁はこれを拒否。筆舌に尽くしがたい極悪非道をもって村民の民主的運動とひなみ沢の強度を踏みにじったのである。
君吉がダム戦争の戦勝記念に記念碑にも書いてありますですよ。
Everyone knew why Reina had brought that up. I could hear them all gulping.
平和的な話し合いを求めるもってなんだこれ。その電源会社ってとこひなみ沢町会の町。しかし傀儡って難しい単語だよな。誰か説明してやってくれよ。
傀儡は本来転じて形式上は独立した団体でありながらある特定の団体の言いなりになっている状態を指す言葉と。
あれ、なんだかひなみ沢にぴったりっぽい言葉ですよね。
Go come.
うん、確かにね。
何ってそんなんで傀儡なんて言われたら所長も思いやりもなくなっちまうじゃないのよ。そういうのは傀儡なんて言わん。へりくつっちゅうんよ。
お前らがさっき返事した俺らにやめろっていうのは聡子とは関係ない。村の問題だって。村の問題ってのは村と役所の今さら記憶にねえとか言うんじゃねえぞ。確かに言った。
Go come.
なあ。
聞いた。聡子ちゃんと無関係な理由だと言った。
Go come.
確かひなみ沢には一人のために全体で団結しようって。
一人に石を投げられたら二人に石を投げられたら8人に棒で追われたら、そして1000人が敵ならば村すべてで立ち、一人が受けた屈辱は全員が受けたものと。一人の村人のために全員が結束せよ。それこそ盤石な刺繍同盟の結束は岩より固く、水を通さないダムすらも通さん。終わりの方の部分は当時の同盟会。
Go come. Cook these frauds. Mayor Kimiyoshi used to be the head of the Onoguchi Guardians. He crossed his arms and started to groan. There were many things he wanted to say, but he knew that none of them would make him look good. And so he continued to stay
俺は
silent.
ここに引っ越してきてからミオンやシオンなでもそれはダム戦争の時から始まった戦争が終わってからの辛い時代を乗り越えるために育まれた。だから俺はその時代から団結を育んできた人たち、そして何よりここの額縁に飾られている死守同盟の男たちの勇ましさ。当時はひなみ沢をダム湖に沈めようと、でもそれを全部跳ね返した。そんな男たちが戦ったから今のひなみ沢がある。いなかったら今頃ここは固定だ。だからこうして自然の美しさと村人の団結を誇れる村が今にあることを感謝したい。そしてそんなひなみ沢に住めることを誇りにしたい。
その通りだ。
Someone shouted. It wasn't one of my friends. It was one of the elderly
だ
villagers.
から俺はそんなひなみ沢に住んでいる。一人に石を投げられたら二人に石を投げられ、8人に棒で追われたら、そして1000人が敵ならば村すべてで立ち向かえ。一人が受けた屈辱は一人の村人のため、それこそ盤石な死守。北条聡子は
そしてのんびりと1ヶ月以上も今すぐにもだから死守同盟の力、解散した死守同盟の魂をもう一度結集させてほしい。
Reina and Mion applauded, and the applause quickly spread to everyone. I saw smiles creeping across the faces of the old people. However, they quickly wiped away those smiles and started discussing with their neighbors.
確かに役所の言いなりなんてひなみ沢らしくないぞ。
でもダムせお役所にもいろいろ世話
知らんかったよ。うちの町会はそんなに役所、いえ、そもそも私は個人的には俺は町会のやり方は圭一君はただ役所の言いなりで圧力をかけるなんて
三茶、前原君に協力できんまでにも自粛を求めるのはわしらの本質で。
俺は前原の年長者への礼儀を書きすぎた。だいたいおめえそんな口の聞き方で曲がり通ると思ったんか。
Yeah, Ken. Three scary old guys came up to yell at me. I raised my own voice and yelled right back in their faces, attaboy.
口の聞き方の魂の問題だ。村の一員のために立ち上がれない腰抜けは引っ込んでろ。
Kokum.
何を言うか生意気だ。
Big old guy smacked me upside the
何
head.
をしやがる。
I hit him right back. The room went into a panic again. Yeah. You want to smack, you get smacked right back. Attaboy. Reina approached us. Thought she'd come to stop me, but she suddenly hit the old guy in the head too.
何をする。女だと思って手加減されると思うな。
He thwacked Reina upside the head. However, Reina talked back to him with a firm look in her eyes.
一人が叩かれたらそれがひなみ沢の魂じゃなかったっけ。
そしてレナさんを叩くというならこちらは4人でお相手しなくてはなりませんね。私も立ちましょう。
Let me in.
ケイチ、父さんも立つぞ。
W Dad.
お前の言うのはただそれを暴力で潰そうというなら父さんはお前
圭一の前に立ちならこちらは
リカちゃま。
リカちゃまにしては威勢がいい。私も付き合いますよ。私も前原君に味方させていただきます。
Chie Sensei stood up. Thought she had given up under all the pressure.
対極的な見地という生徒のためにはこの身など惜しくないと思っていながら
W Teach.
私は自分を恥じます。
Wearing a fierce expression, she stared at the mayor. That was her answer to the pressure he tried to put on
シ
her.
エ先生。
確かに教育者として生きですが、さとこちゃんを救おうとする前原君のやっていることは、私は教育者として正しい行いは正しいと。だから前原君にもうやめてくださいなんて言えないんです。
先生のお墨付きまでもらえる。さて、お役所との馴れ合いと村の一員を助けるのと
聞くまでもないよ。ここはただの元は鬼ヶ淵死守同盟のそしてここにいるのは同盟当時の幹部ばかり。死守同盟の魂を忘れ。
ミオンちゃん。
村長、ケイちゃんのやっていることはあらゆる逆風にくじけず戦おうとする姿勢を。私は町会名で彼の陳情に自粛を求めるのは、それでもなお自粛を求めるなら、私は今この場で死守同盟の記念写真の額縁を全て割り。
While the mayor did nothing but moan, somebody else raised his voice.
わしは前原君、口は悪いが魂は間違ってない。
どうか役所と対等に渡り合うならともかく
圭一君、気にすることなんかないぞ。圧力なんかに屈するな。
The assembly all instantly filled with a great round of applause.
前原君、せっかくだから。
はい、聡子が叔父に誘拐同然にですが、面会を拒絶され、千恵先生は生徒の安全第一ですぐに。
その晩、相談虐待の事実なし、慎重な対応だとは思いますが、あの叔父のそのため、ケイちゃんを代表に翌日5名で相談所。
でも慎重に様子を見たいと言ってそれで私たちは5人ではアピールが足りなかったと思い、
よくクラス全部をまとめたな。
歴史に残るケイちゃん、仲間を救え、見殺しにするなって。ケイちゃんがダム戦争の時にいたら運動はもっと盛り上がって、もう1年は
確かに前原のも。
でも2日目もそれほどね、ほとんど効果なし。慎重に対応するの
いや、効果だってそれで役所はビビって自治を経由して超
圧力がかかり始めたってことは効果は出てるぞ。
I see. I guess you could look at it like that. They weren't scared of us. They wouldn't have acted that way.
それで3日目の今日は友達、今度は相談所の所長、耳を傾けてくれたとは思うの。
圭一君、その時には町会と話し、相談所側は裏に村の後ろ盾。
そうでしょうね。先方の受け答えから裏ですでに決着がついているから。
明日ももちろん訴えに行く。だって相談所は村の内部で話をつけてもらえたもん
ですね。町会は自分たちの味方だと思っていますから。
町会は圭一を支持することを明確にしてくれ
ですね。そうでないと今後の陳情が門前払いにされてしまう。
いいじゃん。前原君のやってることに町会は関与しないってはっきり言ってやれ。
そりゃな、私も個人的には圭一君に文句をつけたくはないんだが、町会としての立場だと、たとえ中立の宣言にしたってそれは支持表明と変わらない。だがな、町会の総意を図らないとな。私一人じゃ決められん。役員全員の一致を取り付けんと。
今日のメンバーで役員。
Yeah, but there's one in particular.
北条家の娘に肩入れをすることを気に入らない人が。
The whole room sunk into silence. That was the heart of the matter.
誰もがダム戦争は、それはさっき皆さんが俺に、そして終結と同時に北条家に対するところが、それだけがダラダラと。
北条家の人間と接触があると囁かれると、
聡子ちゃんのご両親は確かに立ち退き派のリーダーだったかもしれないけど、
わしは別に。でも他の。
いや、俺もどうとも。ダム戦争はもう終わってるし。
俺も。でも毛嫌いしてる人もいる。
私から聡子のことが嫌いな人多分いないはずです。なのに誰もが北条家の聡子に関わると後ろ指を刺されると信じてる。ところがですね、そんな人は。
いやいないなんてことは。いるよ、そういう人は。
なら友達の友達から聞いたなんて話はなしで。
The room fell silent again. It had become obvious they were all avoiding Satoko because of a huge misunderstanding.
このままだと俺たちが町会が味方してくれてると思って。だから俺たちは町会が立場をはっきりしてくれなければ戦いを。
君吉、ひょっとしてある人の許しが欲しいのではないですか。
はい、リカちゃまは痛いところをつくね。
Mayor forced out a smile. I had no idea what Riki-chan was talking about, but she must have hit the nail on the head. Who could it be, though? Oh, come on, Keiichi. Come on, bud. Who was that someone? If I could persuade them, the village would end up supporting us. Gee, I wonder.
ひょっとして鬼ババ？
君吉家としては古出家もそうだね。
僕も御三家の当主なのです。
Namizawa has three powerful families who make all the decisions for the village. That's been a tradition since the time of Onagahuchi village. It's kind of an old tradition, but this was the road we couldn't avoid.
となると、御三家で一番でかくて、実際は牛耳ってるって聞いてるんだが。
Everyone knew that, but it was taboo to speak it. Something only I could say since I didn't have the ties they did.
ということは兄ちゃんのおばあちゃんも説得できる。
どうなんだい、みおんちゃん。
まあそりゃあ私もですが、バッチャ以外が全部決着してて、園崎家の次期当主だ。聡子という部員を持つ我が部の。
村長さん、約束してくれ。 ミオンのばあさんを説得できたら町会は。
そりゃ御三家当主の統一見解なら
要約すると、ここにいる連中はみんないい年して情けない連中だぜ。まったく。
いや、お嬢さんは怖いぞ。
そんなこと。レナはみーちゃんのおばあちゃんはもちろん怖いところもよく知ってる。怒った圭一くんの方がその倍は怖いから。
怒ったレナはその俺の倍怖いけど。よしわかった。俺たちがミオンのバス。そしたら町会は俺を支持してくれ。いや、支持なんて生ぬるい。いっそ徹底的に協力してもらうぜ。
協力ってなんだい。
Means get off your ass.
鬼ヶ淵死守同盟が仮にも同盟の名を持つ。
わしらも出る。さすが。
いや、当然だろ。役所にうちはやるならとことんだ。ひなみ沢連合町会名でそれに支持を表明して協力はしないではす。
町会が支持を表明した段階で前原君たちの戦いじゃない、町会全体の戦い。そうなれば代表は村長が自ら役所に抗議しなきゃ示しがつく。
分かった分かった。お嬢さんが納得してくれれば、また圭一君に力。今日ここに集ま。おお。
でもお龍を説得する。
分かったよ。お嬢さんの説得に私も圭一君の話し方。お嬢さんにはお嬢さん用の年寄り言葉で話せる。
今日はひどいことばかり言って皆さ
ん。いや、君はいい。町会の癒着を見事バッサリだ。圧力になんか屈しないその姿は。
さっきは叩いてすまん。頭に血が。
いえ、
知恵先生もあんたわり。
しかし北条家いじめを。
というかお嬢さんが特に嫌ってるんだよ
な。However, according to Mion, Oreo-san doesn't hate the Hojo family either. I feel like the whole thing was ridiculous.
前原さん、まさか町会を味方につけ。
いえ、まだ味方になってミオンのばあさんを説得するという条件付きです。
オレオさんは確かに独裁的な立場ですが、その町会の事前調整がついているというのであれば、いやいや、特に最初にこけ下ろして。
ああ、いえ、親父の美術史のコラムっぽく。親父のコラムって
ほうほう。前原さんのお父さんは画家さんな。ぜひ今度私にも絵を見せ。
いやー。
My dad doesn't even let me see his work. Guess you can't show it to him either. What kind of dirty pictures is he drawing?
じゃあ明日の晩お嬢さんのところへお伺いしよう。さすがにお嬢さんは機嫌を悪くすると。
行くのはそれから誰？もちろんレナさんも行くって。おとなしく頭を縦に振らなかったら頭。
はあ、そんなことしーちゃんひどい。
圭一、お寮に行ってやりますです。
そうかそうか、行ってやれ言ってやれ。もちろん俺も行ってやるぞ。
私もいるだけでも力になれることはあると思いますので。
さて、で、お姉大ババさんと本音から言うと明日は入れ替わってほしい。
圭一くん、なんだか話が。
ああ、人の力ってのは集まれば集まるほど。ひなみ沢全体が連帯すれば何しろ国とやり合ってへこませた連中なんだからな。
The old people seem proud to hear me talk about the dam conflict. Everyone started talking about all the heroic things they did back then.
サトコは救えないという、これほどまでに圧倒的運命を打ち破る力というのは、今回はいけるかもしれないなんていうちょっとの幸運の重なりなんかとは比べ物にならないくらいに圧倒的なのね。
Let's go. Let's go. The next evening. Oh, we're just jumping right into it. Good. We're all gathered at the Sonozaki residence. Thought we'd be talking with Mion's grandma over tea or something. However, it wasn't so relaxed a situation as that. Mion's grandma stayed in her futon. She was propped up against a huge cushion and made me feel like I was about to talk to a queen. That wasn't the only thing either. There were about 5 members of the Sonozaki family surrounding her, as though I was some kind of yakuza, I was at some kind of yakuza gathering. Yes, this wasn't just any old town council meeting. It was a meeting of the 3 families. Kind of felt as though I didn't belong, but I also didn't have the time to be afraid. I could persuade this lady, I could get help from the villagers.
そんなわけなんだ。町会がこのままの立場を崩さないと、町会は最低でも中立を宣言しないとならんと思うんだが。
The mayor was the first to speak. The old woman looked very grave. I couldn't tell if she always wore an expression like that or if the story made her look that way. She made a comment in a very low voice to her people. The lady wearing a kimono spoke for her instead. She must be Mion's mother.
沖宮の生活相談、それどころか圭一君の熱意を、その状況で町会には。
母さん、そこは私から。聡子の叔父は去年も聡子に暴力を振るってるし、愛人に捨てられたと思ってひなみ沢に帰ってきた不機嫌火災、北条哲平のこと。
一応茜さんにはお伝えしてあります。
母さん、のんびり任せてたら多分助けてくれる。私は聡子が苦しんでるの数ヶ月も
数ヶ月、そんくらいでギャーギャーと想像しんね。
The old lady finally spoke, but she didn't have anything pleasant to say.
そりゃ死ぬまではいかん。
ならギャーギャー、すったら生き死に根性がなんばしだーっと聞いとんくだらんわ。
Wow. So that's why the whole village is afraid of her. This is Oryo Sonozaki, known variously as the Hag or Empress Sonozaki.
おりょう、聡子は助けてあげてほしいのです。
リカちゃん、友達は選ぶ。あんな北条のクソガキな。入江の先生、あんた、いい年してんな。
聡子ちゃんは、別に聡子ちゃんがダムに坊主憎ければ。
ガラシ、お前誰に向かって口どんと。
Oh, I can't wait for...
兄ちゃんのおばあちゃんって、
Nah,
本当
I
に
can't
聡子
wait
ちゃん
for
のこと
Keiichi to
許
speak.
してるの？
Everyone's trying to be all polite and whatnot, and she's over here being like this really condescending asshole. Like, ah, you piece of shit. You don't know what you're talking about. You're all fucking idiots. I can't wait for Keiichi to get in there. I can't wait. I've never been more excited to hear Keiichi speak. Fight fire with fire, big boy. She wants to talk disrespectful. Hit her with that disrespect.
ミオンが言うには、なるほど。町会の連中が言うのが少しは。
圭一君も何か言いたそうだね。
Yeah, he do.
この際だ。何でも言ってごらん。
I made eye contact with Mion's mom. She's very pretty, but she was wearing the same grave look as Oryo. By then, I had no doubts this was Mion's mother.
言ってもいいですけど。
What do you mean by no doubts? Mion literally called her mom like 5 minutes ago. Hold up. Where is it? Where is it? Okay, that was that. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, Mio, mom, let me explain this to you. And then Shion also says, you see, mom? What do you mean by now I had no doubts? You still had doubts when both sisters were calling her mom?
いいんですか？
いいよいい。せっかく園崎本、あんたもいいな。
Rena nodded in agreement. Okay.
園崎俺を前原刑事まだ引っ越してきたばかりですが、よろしく。お前が挨拶せん。
今だから話す。前原家が引っ越してきた時、印象悪いんだよ。
Why was Mion only telling me that now? Sure hope I'm not late to introduce my...
北条聡子かどうかが村の一員が今、それを救うためには相談所に。そしてそれはあなたに迷惑をかけてることじゃない。
迷惑って話は、ひなみ沢連合町会は市長と大馬場様は過去を水に流し、連携して共存していくことを確認し合ってる。村を栄えさせるため。
その村の栄というのは、
さっき私が見殺しなんて誰、相談所だってちゃん、それでも急いでほしいっての。
村と役所は手打ち。聡子には波の対応だから、聡子がどんなにヤバい状況でも、さっきミオンたちも言ったように、3日ぶりに聡子が登校してきた時、たったの3日でその10倍の時間でしかも1ヶ月後にはその時点で様子見とミオンのお母さんは。
じゃああんたは
すぐに助けるべきだと訴えています。そしてそれを決断してくれる
なら決まりだ。圭一君は続ける。園崎家は知った。それでいいかい？
Damn it. She's so hard-headed. It was easy to win an argument with the old people in the assembly hall since they got agitated so quickly. But Akane-san, Mion's mom, is way tougher than that. Both the Sonozaki sisters and their grandma are quick to anger, but Akane-san seemed incredibly calm. She was calm, but still full of animosity.
町会が役所に対し、俺たちのやってることを指示しないと言ってしまったから。
そういうことなんだ。だから勝手に町会として指示か不指示をはっきり表明してくれないというか、 おばあちゃんさえ納得してくれれば指示しても。
だがんなことまとめんとし。
お前たちもダム戦争の時あれを許せるのかって言われると
私知らないんだけど、さとこちゃんのご両親。
お母さんはさとこがもっと、お父さんは鉄平の兄の、しかも鉄平より強く。
あの鉄平より、そりゃなるほど。園崎家とバチバチと要するにその時の煮えくり返った蝶がまだ収ま。
聞こえるように言う。子供たちからよく大した器だそうじゃない。
つけ上がったそこの布団のばあさんが何もここにいる皆ただ黙って。
嫌だと言ったら
この場でばあさんの頭を叩き割ってミオンを新当主にして頭を縦に振らします。おうばあさん、俺とやり合うつもりかよ。今日だって聞いとんよ。上等も上等。
The evil hag.
もすったらん言わすがこんわかぞが。
The evil hag sent me a violent glare my way. The intimidating aura surrounding her becoming almost visible. Normally I'd be terrified. However, I can't back off today. Yeah, no. Talk your shit. Satoko doesn't have much time left. Everyone here knows that. We all know that she'll be forever damaged in only a few more days. We would then cry and lament our powerlessness. We have to fight as best we can so that we have no regrets. There can be no limits to how far we go to save her.
はっきり言う。サトコは俺、仲間のために俺。あんたはどうだ。あんたもそうだったとき。一人の仲間のために。そしてその団結でダム系。よそ者。おお、また誰がよそ者。俺はひなみ沢の仲間を助ける。それを指してよそ者とはよく言ったぜ。
お嬢さん、前原さんは確かに引っ越してきて日は浅いかもしれませんが、
家の先生はいつんか。おい、だぞ。頭に血が上りすぎて血管が痛みよるんね。
The man on the far end stood up and brought over some tea and
礼
medicine.
儀知らずってんなら一度ここで筋を通し、北条サトコを救うために。サトコは村の一員、それ以上にどうかお願いします。
As I deeply bowed my head to her, my friends bowed along
圭
with
一
me.
君、どうしたもん。
どないせ。
サトコちゃんはそれに圭一君が立ち回るのは筋は通。
お母さん。
ただね、園崎家と北条家、ババ様も公衆の目、それを水に流すけじめの問題だよ。
けじめって何ですか。
堅気の言葉で言うと、ただそれにあれだ、安くはつかないよ。
そのけじめってのを払えば怒りを水に。
私たちも義理の頭を下げられたら水に。まさかレナちゃん、サトコちゃんの頭を下げさせるの。
いいですよ。サトコちゃんにけじめを示すべきご両親ではない。
許すかどうかは見て。まあシャイは感じるかもしれん。
それでどうですか。サトコちゃんがダム戦争時のことを謝ったら。
まあ吸ったら水に流すのも考えよ。
She laughed, obviously thinking that Satoko would never actually apologize to her. It seemed for a moment as though Reina had compromise in mind. However, Reina always has a plan up her sleeve. My goat.
でもサトコちゃんがけじめを示すべきでないにもかかわらず、村八分にして嫌ってきたけじめはおばあちゃんも取ってくれますよね。
なあ。
サトコちゃんがダムに賛成した単に北条家の子供。それだけでこの村ではひなみ沢の意志を左右するそのあなたがサトコちゃんを公の。それは懲戒でもあなたが北条家を嫌っているから北条家と
そりゃ戦中戦後と一番辛い時代よ。それくらいの影響力は当然。
その影響力を知らない。先ほどの言葉をお借りします。身内です。それにあなたの影響、それが仲間を守るってことです。
都会者風情がなかなか。親類の皆さんの意見も聞く。皆さんはどう思う。
筋は通っ。園崎家と北条家のいさかいにまで口を出されぬこと。
北条家がなかったら好きにすればいい。園崎家は協力、それでいいだろう。
そういうわけにはいかんらしいですな。
Oh, Big Papa. The big scary man's sunglasses spoke with a deep voice.
園崎家が頭を縦に振らんことには町会が指示をしなきゃはっきり白黒を
お前さんは
圭一君、いつも娘から聞いてるより正直見直した。大した男だ。
どうもミオンのお父さんですか。
I thought he was the boss of a Yakuza clan or something. Oh, brother, he can be both. Wait, I did hear once that her dad is exactly that. He certainly looks the part.
君のところの身内に迷惑を。親はともかく。そうでしょ、お母さん。
知った。王女の名前をも、それにこいつはそんなやつに
お母さん、ここは一つ近頃珍しい。なかなかこうはっきり言えるわ。
ばっちゃ、私も私たちに里子は、私はひなみ沢だから、私もばっちゃみたいに私も頭を下げ、里子は妹です。お願いします。私たちに。
Upon seeing the twins bowing so deeply, the stubborn old woman simply stared at them with that grave look of hers. I figured it would be difficult to get her to cooperate with us. Mary looked troubled too. Mion's grandma eventually turned her gaze to me and I stared back at her.
頭はすでに一度下げたから、もう一度は下げない。
King shit.
でも、もう一度言う。俺たちに近い。里子は俺の仲間で、あんたの村の一員でもある。そして、あんたを恨む筋合いはないはず。それでどうする？懲戒の指示がつけば、相談所も耳をそれでも聞かなきゃ。また今度はひなびざを上げて。明日は土曜日、相談所も午前中はやってる。そして村人は祭りのその人数で相談所。
そう、100人規模の
人数はどれくらい
いきなり明日の話だから、とにかく俺が
村長さんのところは。
町会役員は確かに役所と築いてきた連帯も大切ですが、役員たちの中にも死守同盟時代の話を引き合いにして、圭一君のやってることは理解できるし、反対する言われはない。
なんだい、ババ様抜きでも町会はそれで最後のケツだけを。なかなか意地の悪い
茜さん、おりょはっきり言うが、私も里子ちゃんが一人でけなげによく頑張ってきた。この辺で里子ちゃんがもうみんなに。
そんなことなんとかしちゃう。なら決まって。てめえは俺のってことは俺の今この場でいい。見ろ、お前がすぐに投資をババア、今この場で締め殺してやら。
As I jumped up, her family members stood in my way. They all had put their hands to their pockets. I don't want to imagine what they might pull out of there.
本当にもう繁盛まさしゃったら。
おりょう、頭の血
その血管切れたらどないすんじゃね。
She was mumbling too much for me to tell what she was saying, but I could tell that she was furious. She whispered something into Mion's mother's ear. She spoke for her instead.
申し訳ないけど、ババ様も頭痛がひどくなっちゃった。
そんな。
圭一君、出直すっての。だいぶ今日はうちの子たちと仲良い。そこいらへんを汲み取ってくれないと。
ケイちゃん、これくらいにしよう。
Based on Mion and Shion's reaction, Mion's mom is very scary when she's angry. They were convinced that their mom was going to explode in about 10 seconds. Still, should we really leave after just that? Damn it. I really want her to nod. If she gives me an answer tonight, I can gather a huge crowd tomorrow. People at the Child Consultation Center were laughing at us today. We'd gradually increase the number of people we had until the third day, but on the fourth we had far less. They must think that we won't show up at all within a couple of days. No matter what, we can't stop showing up. How many days has it been since she was taken by her uncle? We don't have a single day to waste. However, for tonight the meeting was over. The old lady went to sleep and we were kicked out of the room. Even though the rest of us were forced to leave, the mayor stayed behind to wrap things up. We decided to wait in the yard for him to come back out.
くそ、あと一息だ。
圭一君は言うべきことをすべて。でも向こうにももちろんそんな余裕はないんだけれど。
監督的にはどう見えましたか？
おりょうさんがすっかり不機嫌。一度ああなったら、さっき前原さんも言ってましたが、明日の。
でも話を最後まで。あとはおりょうを信じるだけ。
そうだな、信じて待つってのは辛いことだな。
みんなお疲れさん。
Mion and Shion ran over to join us.
どんな感じだ？うまくいきそうか？
わかんない。私の見たところだとバッチケイちゃんは本家には二度と。
なんだミオン、やれやれ。
しかしケイちゃんも昨日の集会所もそう。
っていうか怖え形相だなとは思ったけど。
はあ、それは多分ケイちゃんがバッチャの本当の怖さ。まあ無知も時には武器か。
そんなことな。圭一君はそんな怖さを知ってたって里子。
そういえば竜宮さんもいくら怒鳴ら。
声は荒げられてたけど私も全然怖くなかったかな。
あれ 怒ってないように見えたっての？
うん、みーちゃんのおばあちゃん全然怒ってなかったよ。
Damn it, I accidentally pressed the button. Is that really how it looked to her? To me, it looked like her head was going to explode. The next moment, I heard someone walking toward us. It was the mayor, who was accompanied by Mion's mother.
どうでした？ばあさんは怒ってました？
それでね、OK だってさ。
え？それは
おばあ様の OK サインが出たのさ。だから圭一君、あんたの好きなや。
それって本当ですか？
お母さん、本当なの？
That hag was so ticked off, though. Can't even imagine what caused her to grant us permission. No matter how it happened, I guess she accepted me in the end.
大ババ様はひなみ沢連合長会がひなみ沢連長がバッってことは絶対に負けられない。そしてみっともない戦いもできない。あんたは引っ越してきたばかりのその身でその覚悟は
あります。
ほう、即答とは男だね。見上げた根性さ。よくあれだけ最後に飛びかかって大ババ様の首根っこ踏んづかまえた時。
俺飛びかかる直前にはなりましたけど。
いいかい、前原圭一はそういうことになったから。
なんでですか、物騒な。
Okay, so that's gonna be their spin. Like she only said yes to save her life. She doesn't actually believe in it.
大ババ様は北条、それが若いのに何人か頭をさ。だから圭一君が大立ち回りをした挙句に大ババ様がその男気に惚れて特別に許したってそのくらいの物語がないと。分かったかい、ミオン？
分かった。
That sounds great.
みーちゃんのおばあちゃんもいろいろと大変な。
こういうところで伝説ができ、聡子を救うためにお両大ババ様と取っ組み合いをし。ケイちゃん、多分街を歩くと今後は人が避けてくれます。
圭一の最強伝説の始め。みんな圭一を見るとひそひそガタガタブルブルで道を開けるのです。
そんな伝説は。それよりありがとうございました。
礼なんかいらないよ。何しろ懲戒はもう話逆らいようがないさね。むしろこっちとしてはうちなんか無視してやってほしかったくらい。それを君吉の村長さんも人が悪い。
いやでも納得し。
大ババ様も聡子ちゃんがいつまでも自分が墓に入るときしか。正直あんたたちが騒いでくれたおかげで内心は感謝してるはずだよ。
いや俺も感謝。今度日を改めて。
それはやめといた方が。今度こそ日本刀で追い回されるよ。しかし今日の大ババ様はよっぽど圭一君が可愛かったんだよ。
僕もそう思い、おりょうは日本刀が大好きなのですよ。
リカちゃん笑いながら言うな。生きて帰れて。
今日の圭一君に男はそうでなくちゃいけない。聡子ちゃんもこんな男にここまで一生懸命。
母さん、別にケイちゃん。
なんだ、まだお手つきがないならあんたたちも頑張りな。ねえ圭一君、ミオンとシオンどっちか好きな方を持っておいきよ。
That is such an easy answer. Don't even get me started.
おばさんのことは今日からお母さんって呼んでいいからね。
Mio and Shion simultaneously turned red and hit me with their fists and they're out. What the fuck did I do? He didn't even say anything yet. The apple sure doesn't fall far from the tree, huh? Mom talks just the same way that they do.
じゃあ君はお嬢さんを約束通り懲戒は君を明日の昼にその旨をきっちり。もちろん私も聡子ちゃんをすぐに保護。何しろお嬢さん多分その電話だけで聡子ちゃんはすぐに
ケイちゃんはそれだけの相手を口説き倒したってことだ。
じゃあこれで聡子は明日には必ず。
まだ絶対と決まったわけではありません。でももし君吉のおじいちゃんの電話を、おじいちゃんは普段は温和だけど同盟会長になった時はそりゃあ鬼ですから。
そん時は鬼になるよ。とにかく聡子ちゃんがすぐにでも助け出せるように。
ありがとうございます。あとそれから聡子北条家だから。
おじいちゃん時々言ってます。北条の罰当たり者みたいなこと。
あれは他の人に悪ぶって言ってるだけで別に。
ならそういう悪ぶるのもなしですね。聡子ちゃんを村の子供として 本当の意味で。
分かってる。今後は酒の席でも約束する。うかつなこと言うと私の圭一君に首根っこをつかまれそうだ。
After that, we started heading back home. Satoko still isn't saved, but I think we made huge progress today just the same. Mayor's going to call the Child Consultation Center tomorrow to tell them that he's on our side. He's also going to persuade them to save Satoko as soon as possible. I'll bring up Wario-san's name, too.
サトコはこれで運命から救われるのでしょうか。
Nah, you still gotta...
ああ、間違いなくな。
Nope, Rika's still gotta make that final call, doesn't she? They're gonna be able to remove Satoko from the premises, right? But Rika's gonna have that conversation. She's gonna have that deep one-on-one, right? For Rika to overcome her fate, she has to help Satoko overcome hers. It's gotta be that tag team type shit. They're intertwined like that.
ひょっとすりゃ明日にも救い出せるさ。それでダメなら半端ねえ規模でな。それからな、リカちゃん。運命とかって、運命って言うと初めから結果が決まってるみたいに聞こえる。でもな、最初から結果が決まってることなんて、結果を作るのは俺たちなんだ。だから何をしても無駄みたいな意味で。
Rika seemed to think about what I said for a while. I wondered for a moment if I said something that hurt her feelings, but Rika-chan soon smiled at me.
圭一がそう言うならそうしよう。私はもう運命がいかに容易に破れ、この100年の中で鉄平が帰って逃れられぬ死の運命なんて、ああ、それより最悪の目、この100年の間でほんの 1,2 度あったわ。
Oh, interesting.
寂しい世界だった。
たまにリカちゃんの言ってる花、煙に巻いてるつもりなんだろ。
みー、内緒なのですよ。
I'll do just as Keiichi says. I won't use words like fate anymore. The next day. Hello. Thank you for calling. You've reached Shishibone City Hall.
もしすみません。生活振興部の自治係をお願いします。
Of course. Please hold.
お待たせしました。自治係でございます。
もしもし。どうも。係長の相田さんはいらっしゃいます。
これは君吉会長さん。先日は大変お。
いや、本当にありがとう。助かったよ。
あ、係長が戻りました。今変わります。係長、ひなみ沢連長の君吉会長さんです。
はい、もしも、どうもどうも。
実はね。
はいはい。若い、いや相談、会長さんにご相談できて、それで、どんな話になりましたか？
Oh yes, bring in the fucking bongos. Hell yeah.
それでね、ひなみ沢連長として。
すみません。今、なんと。
うちの町会でも、いやね、若い方が納得、若いって言っても、56。
しかし、他の役員さんは。
それは昨日、最初は石頭連中が渋った。いやね、彼は最近にしちゃ、ああいう子をもっと応援しないと。そうです。総意です。反対の役員は。
先日もお話ししました通り、ただですね、観察期間を経ないこと。
そんなのは前原聡子ちゃんはとんでもなく暴力、体の傷じゃないよ。育ち盛りの時期の心の傷。この間の青少年セミナーの先生も一緒に聞いたでしょ。
それでその。
お嬢さんもそう強い口。慎重だか慎重だか知らんが、これ以上聡子ちゃんの件を放置するってんなら。
そうこういうのはご家庭の問題でもありますし、ご近所
に出てくればうちらも言ってやるけど、それに町会の者が余計なこと言ったら、だからこそ行政の出番じゃないのよ。
後ほどこちらからも園崎顧問。
すっかりお嬢、しばらくは電話をし。
そうで、それは困りましたね。 園崎顧問は頭に血がの。
それで係長さんの方から相談所の方に、なんなら私が一緒に行っても、今から行きまし。
いえ、会長さんにご足労。こちらから相談所の方に連絡します。
今日の昼前にはそんな夕方になるまで。所長ってそんなに急が。
わかりました。お昼まで会長さん。
くれぐれも懲戒はね、相談所の対応が。
わかりました。はい、ごめんくださいませ。
係長、
参ったな。斉藤君、悪いんだけどさ、俺は相談所に連絡する。これはひょっとすると。もしもどうもお世話になっております、自治係でございますが。
ひなみ沢の連合、先日聞いてもらって。
先日何でもですね。
まあですが別に懲戒の講義があったから
所長、ひなみ沢連長はご存知と、所長はダム戦
争の時は県にいました。本庁の方にデモが来て、
端的に申し、先方の話に耳を傾け。
でも係死守同盟はもう何年。その後オタクと
うまくたった一晩でな。陳情のリーダーの前、しかも園崎顧問の指示まで。
園崎顧問ってお会いしたことは。
とにかくですね、もしも
私は懲戒さんとご縁があ。そもそも行政は粛々と進め、うちの職員も福祉士もそのどれも最優先で。
そうで、わかりました。では私の方から君。
そんな連絡、市政は懲戒の太鼓持ちじゃん。オタクもあまり特定の懲戒に
わかりました。はい、それでは失礼いたします。ダメだな、この所長、県市の地元懲戒の怖さは。
県の職員出身。
しかも相手は俺はどうなっても知らないから。そっちはどう？園崎顧問と。
はい、君吉会長と同じ。相談所への連絡に対する返事は。
もっついなくなったな。ハンドンの楽しい土曜日が朝から台無しだよ。
相談所長は怖いものなしで。
下手すりゃ週明けには本庁と相談所を凱旋者が囲むこともあり得るぞ。
会長宅と顧問宅に連絡ですね。手分けしてお返事し。
その前に市長室に連絡するよ。
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Why would you take me to that menu then? Because yeah, I wasn't gonna say anything. I didn't see any new tips pop up, but it's like, would you like to view the new tips? Like, yeah, if they were there, why give me this menu?
拒否ですか?
Oh, but don't worry. Don't get down yet, Keiichi. We got the bongos. But it's like I said, Rika's gotta make her stand too.
自治の係、相談所の所長はあくまでも向こうも引き続きそんな悠長なことは言ってられないって言い返してやったよ。
The mayor came to the school before noon to explain to us what went down with the officials. We'd all gathered in the teacher's office to meet with him.
私は所長さんの顔は見てないんだけど。
なんでも最近就任した職員、住民の一部がごねてるくらいにしか思って。
バカですね。他の懲戒ならいざ知れず。ひなみ沢を本気で。
かわいそうなのです。
こうなりゃもうやるしか。さっき神社で役員と話して、何しろうちの名前を出しちまった以上。そうですか、
レナたちは今日もこの。
町会からも人数を出せない。これからお嬢さんのところ。
ダム戦争の時はともかく、なかなか人なんて集められないんじゃないですか。
ケイちゃん、ここは都会じゃないからね。野良仕事の人の方が多い。曜日なんて基本的に関係ない。だから土曜日の真っ昼間から準備の人でも大勢集まれるわけよ。
I see. Tend to think of adults as people who work at big companies. But this is Hinamizawa. I almost forgot about that.
普通のお役所は土曜日だからお昼で閉まっちゃうけど、だから1時に現地集合にしても何人集められるか。
何人来てくれても嬉しいです。どうかよろしくお願いします。
大人の人が増えるのは。
そうだな、4日続けて同じ顔ぶれだから相当インパクトがあるぞ。
どのくらい集まるかはお寮の号令次第の。
そうだね、来てくれる人数でバッチャの本気度が測れるだろうね。お母さんが言うほどお寮ばあ様が機嫌がいい。役員2000、妥当な数字でしょ。
大人30人に子供、昨日より
もちろん私も拡声器も持っていっちゃうぞ。
おほー。
おじいちゃん必殺の鬼の拡声器ですね。あれって壊れたんじゃない？
それは古い方だよ。機動隊に壊す鬼が淵死守同盟の頃の血がうずいてくる。
どうやら今年は綿流しの前に別の祭りになりそうだな。相談所め待ってろよ。
またさとこちゃんが虐待を。
可能性は高いな。リカちゃんの方はさとこに素直に助けを求めるよう。
僕なりのせい、あとはさとこ次第としか
さとこも早く変な意地を捨ててくれればいいのに。おねえ、捨てていい意地と捨てちゃいけ。私はさとこの気持ちがわかりますよ。あ、ごめん。そういう意味で言ったんじゃ。
さとこちゃんはないし、でもあの表情を見て助けを呼んでいるように見えないなら。
そうだな、確かにさとこが助けを求め、でもそれを待ってたら大変なことになっ。
赤信号の横断歩道の真ん中に立つ諭すより手を引くのが先であることもありますです。
うん、いい例えだね。まずはさとこちゃんの手を引っ張ることから始めないとね。
話はわかりま。では教室へも行く前にちゃんと家に帰ってお昼にするんですよ。お昼抜きで買い食いはいけませんからね。
At that point, everyone was thinking there wouldn't really be 30 adults there to support us. However, we were wrong. I had no idea how serious Hinamizawa can get. Yeah, I was fully expecting that. It's like, yeah, we're not gonna get that big of a crowd. It's like, oh, we're getting hella people. By the time I got there with my 10 classmates, the quiet atmosphere around the library completely disappeared.
すっごい。これ全部ひなみざわの人だよね。
ひなみざわだ。沖宮に住んでる人にも同意。
本当だ。お店のエプロンをしたまま駆けつけてきてる人もいるぞ。かなり異様な光景だぞ。
ということはお寮は相当本気で号令を出したようなのです。
そのようで、なんだか私には心地いい雰囲気ですね。私の大好きだったダム戦争の頃が懐かしくなります。
今日はすごいっすね。
おお、亀田君。まあな、ひなみざ丸ごとに声をかけたってわけだ。
集められるのは子供、まさか大人まで集める。そこにしびれる、憧れるっす。
まさかこれだけの大人が集まるとは。
女の子は人類の宝でござる。同志がこれだけ集まるのは当然でござるよ。
Not only had many people shown up, but many different kinds of people too. I wonder how many people there are.
軽く数えて
Hell
100
yeah.
人を超えてるね。しかも話を聞いてるとまだ。
前原さん、遅れて申し訳。すごい人数じゃないですか。
やはり鬼ヶ淵の人たちが集まるとすごい規模になりますね。
話は聞いてたけど、あなたって本当にすごいのね。
いよいよもってダム戦争の頃を彷彿させるよ。しかしこれだけの人数をまとめたなんてひなみ沢の顔役だね。
ケイチ君、ああ、
村長さん、一体
人数なんか教会の連絡網で獅子同盟の金みんな野良を放り出して、ああ、みんな今日は教会としての講義だから獅子同盟の名前が入ったものは。
あ、ケイチ君のお父さんもこんにちは。
いやー、レナちゃん、ケイチ、父さんも応援に来たぞ。母さんも来たがってたんだが、ちょっと仕事の電話待ちが。頑張れと伝言を頼まれてるぞ。
ありがとう。
しかしお父さんもダム戦争の。ケイチはこの人数の代表なんだろ。
うん、最初はほんの5人程度の代表だったつもり。でもこうなっちまったら100人率いるのも1000人率いるのも同じさ。仲間を救うために最善を尽くす。
ケイチ、いよいよ
だな。兵力十分。相談所の連中きっとビビってやがる頃だぞ。
所長、どうしましょう。どうするも粛々と事務を陳情があれば聞くの。私はちょっとこの後出張があるのですが、その表ではほら。
That banner was the same one that the Onoguchi Guardians had used in the past. They brought along as many banners as they could reuse. This one said the head of the office, but originally it meant the head of the construction office. But of course, the head of the Child Consultation Center didn't know about that.
所長は先日自治の話によると、ひな所長が駐車場に行くまで。係
長裏の書それはどういう意味ですか
Fuck you.
まさか私を捕まえようってことじゃ。ダム戦争の当時はもし所長の出張をそう急ぎの出張じゃないので今日は中で事務をしています。
At the next moment, the crackling noise of a speaker echoed outside. Testing, testing, 1 2 1 2. Can you hear me? This is the Hinamizawa Town Council. Sorry for causing trouble in our neighborhood. Testing, testing. They were adjusting the output of the speakers. A few trucks carrying those speakers were parked outside. That of the consultation center finally realized in that moment what it really meant to fight against the village of Hinamizawa.
すごい、なんだかもうじき入ってきそうな勢いですね。
It was half an hour past the appointed assembly time. Mayor told me that there were still a few more people on their way. Even more people are going to show up. Rana counted up all the people here already and found that there were more than 150 of them. Really doubt we can get this maid to come back by Monday afternoon. Hopefully we can finish this today. The mayor gave me the green light. He wanted us to chant our slogan in chorus before going inside. It really was like a real protest.
でもみーちゃん、こんな大勢であの狭
もちろん全員は無理だ。中に入れる人と溢れちゃう人に分かれちゃう。だから中に入る前に全員でシュプレヒをあげるわけ。おね、今日は物を蹴ったり壊したりは現金で しないよ。私はそんなこと。あんたが私の時にやった悪行のせいで私は迷惑してるんだから。
おや、あれは大石さんじゃないですか?
I expect to see him here. Of course, he's my mahjong friend. Came here to support me, even though he's not from Minamizawa. I don't think he's here to support necessarily, more so to observe as a police officer.
前原どう大石さん、ちょうどいいところでこれから中に入ろうというところだったんです。
Oishi-san was accompanied by a few of his own men, yeah. Right along 4 police officers in uniform.
前原さん、君吉の村長さんも
不良、おや、どうしたんです？
ちょっとお二方にちょっとここではなんですので、もうちょいあちらの方へお願いします。
どうしてですか？
特定の目的で専用することは禁じられてます。
Yeah. I was really taken aback. Thought we were just getting started, but Oishi-san said, but Oishi-san, and by that I mean the police, are telling me to break up the crowd.
どういうこと？役所は住民の声を聞か。
そうです。里子をすぐに助け、それがどうしていけ。
この敷地内での無届け、それから獅子骨市児童相談所施行条例という
施設長って誰です？
まあ早い話が。
来た話も一切。じゃあ俺たちは敷地からの退去ってんだから、ここから出て。
行動での集会なら県の詳しくはお近くのまあ相当
そんなバカな、こんなことってない。せっかくこれだけの人がそれを伝えることもできないなんて。
My friends soon all came running over. Oishi-san explained the situation to them. They reacted exactly the same way I did.
そんな、こんなのってひどすぎです。
向こうは私たちがいくら訴えたから私たち支持を集めて人数を集め。
まあね、こればかりは仕方。おとなしく警察に従うか、警察を敵に回す。
もうダム戦争ごっこはご勘弁ね。
くそ、じゃあどうする。おとなしく解散して
出直しても多分また同じことになる。所長はもう私たちには一切。役所の機嫌を損ねるってのはこういうことだからね。
じゃあみーちゃん、私たちは
ここからは敷地に入れないってんだから、それを延々と連日
短期決戦どころか。
お役所もヤクザだから、意固地になるとかえって逆効果かもしれない。天下の鬼ヶ淵獅子堂、情けない。おじいちゃん、なんとかできないんですか？
シオンちゃん、獅子、ここまで露骨に拒否されるとダム戦争の時の工事事務所と同じで、あとは囲んで長期戦しかなくなっちまうよ。
But that's not going to work. There's so many people here. I was supposed to end this today. Satoko didn't come to school again today. Her uncle called and claimed that her cold had resurfaced. Promised that she'd be back on Monday. But hearing that wasn't any relief to us. Today is Saturday, so there are 2 more days until then. Nothing is guaranteed for Satoko. In the world I imagined, it was too late to save Satoko by the day before Watanagashi. The Satoko in real life hasn't gotten to that point yet, but nothing guarantees that she'll still be fine in just 2 days. I don't know if she'll still be sane the next time we see her.
長期戦なの結局。 相談所が望むだけの期間を。
ダメだよ、さとこちゃんを救うな。なぜって言われたら困るけど、
せっかくこれだけの人数が集まったのに、
Rika-chan said that with tears in her eyes.
中に入ることもできないなんて。
Damn it, damn it, damn it. I told Rika-chan that I could defeat anything if I put my mind to it. I don't want to give up here. Even a few days ago, we never imagined that we'd get this many supporters. We got approval from the town council, and even from Mion's grandma. What else am I supposed to do? What can we do to make our wish come true? Is there something we haven't done yet? Son of a bitch.
リカちゃん、そんなに悔しがること。
ミー、
私たちはやれるそう信じてね。
ああ。
だったら追い風準備が万端な。きっと追い風は吹く。
それはいい。くそくそくそくそ。
Oh no. Satoko was sleeping like the dead. If he didn't send her to school, that annoying teacher might come to harass him again. He really wanted her to go to school today. However, no matter how much he forced her to wake up, she collapsed and went back to sleep. Oh no. He touched her forehead and realized that she had a high fever. If he sent her to school like that, they may say something about it. He had no choice but to call the school and tell them she's sick again. She asked him many questions, but Teppei told her that she really was sick this time. 1 hour later, he realized he had said something he shouldn't have to the teacher. Yeah, no, she's really sick this time. Ever since he took Satoko in, there had been nothing but trouble. The teacher came to visit him the day after he took her. He received calls every so often, too. They're all from the Child Consultation Center. Every single one of them told him to put Satoko on the phone. Teppei was still certain that Satoko wouldn't give him up, because of her fear that he'd destroy Satoshi's room if he did. However, he wasn't sure how long she'd keep her silence. In short, Teppei had no idea whether or not Satoko would continue to do as she was told. The only thing he knew for absolute certain was that he couldn't control her forever with fear alone. He could frighten her with just a look, but that fear wouldn't last a very long time. He wanted to leave the house before Satoko got him into trouble, but in order to do that, he needed to find the bank book as soon as possible. Satoko was sleeping like an abandoned kitten inside of a wrinkled blanket. She was sweating heavily and breathing deeply. Both were signs of a very high fever. Teppei wasn't concerned in the least, of course. Instead, he felt that this was his chance. In that state, she wouldn't notice if he went into Satoshi's room. He'd promised her that he wouldn't mess around in there as long as she stayed obedient to him. In reality, he went inside Satoshi's room while Satoko was at school, but he was very careful about putting everything back into place. However, by this point, he'd had enough. He was anxious to leave as soon as he could. Even Teppei could tell that Satoko's fever wasn't from a cold, but from emotional distress. If she got even sicker, it could cause even more trouble for him. He slowly crept up the stairs, heading for Satoshi's room. Tried to open the door slowly, but it was stuck on something. He assumed he just hit the furniture with the door, but in the next moment... The trap! That's my girl. He heard the loud noise of falling metal. Something had been stuck behind the door, and it knocked over something on the bookshelf. Teppei clicked his tongue. He'd been planning to sneak into Satoshi's room while Satoko was asleep. Shortly after that, he heard Satoko running up the stairs. She wasn't running just because she heard a noise. She was running because she heard a noise from Satoshi's room. That meant that Teppei was trying to get inside it.
ああ、もうついとらんわ。わしゃんな、サトシの部屋にお前がサトシのおとなしい暗示。通帳なんて知らない。そんなのニーニーの部屋に。だからニーニーが帰ってくる。ニーニー。やめしか。
Satoko let out a dull cry as she went rolling across the floor. Satoko's screams echoed around the room. Hitting her would leave a mark, and then the child consultation would harass him, and maybe more than that. As a man of violence, it was already stressful enough to be warned not to hit her. Once he hit her on impulse like he just did, his restraint was all gone. Fuck. Satoko was crying and holding her left cheek. She might have suffered a cut in the inside of it when he punched her. She had bloody drool trickling out of the corner of her mouth.
また来週来るっつと来た時に流れたら、ああ、まあ絶対に踊りゃ他に言えんのか。黙らんか。
Teppei kicked her and she curled up on the floor. Ever since Rina had abandoned him, nothing good had happened at all. All he got was a whiny little girl. All she can do is cook and clean. Other than that, she just acts scared all the time. So when Satoko started crying like an infant, Teppei also lost his mind.
黙れっちゅうとんがわからんか。誰っちゅうとん。
くそ、大石さん。こうしてる間にも。
おお、私に指一本でも。
くそー、やめなよ、ケイちゃん。挑発に乗っちゃ。大石のおじさま。そんな
そりゃ言葉をもうちょい選ばない。
よしなよ、大石さんは。
はあ？レナ、お前。
わかんないかな。大石さんは警察の対面で言ってるだけで、 本当は圭一君だって、大石さんが本気で私たちを
追い払われなくてもこれがどう味方だ。
大石さん、パトニー課長から無線が。
ありがとう。じゃあ私は皆さんは解散の段取りだけそこから一歩でも前に覚えといてくださいよ。
クソったれ。
もしもし、神取横。
大石さん、そっちの件はどうだ。
大丈夫。皆さん極め、ただ人数が集まっちゃったので。
そうな、相談所の方からまだ解散させられないの。
もうじきトップの話はもう向こうが多分内部を説得するのに、また電話があったら
鬼ヶ淵死守同盟が動き出したなん
ねえ、ダム戦争はもうちょい時間をくだ。
大石さん、よくスラスラ嘘が言えるっすね。トップの話なんて全然ついてないじゃないだ。
さてね、
所長からすぐにやはり増援を頼んで。
クマちゃん、そういじ
は
仲間を助けようとして大したもんじゃ。
懲戒を動かしたってことは園崎を両解き伏せたってこと。園崎天皇をあの年で説得するなんて。
やはりこれだけの人数。
連中が助けろって言ってる里子見殺しにはしても助けるために村が立ち上がるなんてことは、それくらいに村と北条家の愛、それをわずか実はね、私そのやりとりの一部を綿流しの準備会の席上でね、彼は勇ましかった。村の年寄り連中からそう見事年寄り連中を説得し、そしてお寮も説得で今日があるんだから、ありゃ将来は大物だよ。くまちゃんは今から前原さんと仲
じゃあやはり大石さん、普段なら強引にやるはずなのに話し合いなんて
前原さんに今日はちょいと花を持たせようと思ってます。
She said something he shouldn't say as a policeman. Kumagai had to struggle to understand what he meant. Giving Oishi a thin smile, he asked him a question.
解散したってことにし
そこまでサービス。それにね、前原さんたちもクマちゃんもこんな程度ね。まあ見ててください。
破られるまで憎まれるばかりで。
クマちゃんも一本吸います？
Kumagai accepted the offer, taking a cigarette from Oishi's hand. In the next moment, two black vehicles stopped short in front of the building, their brakes screaming under the stress.
それおいで。行きますよ、クマちゃん。
Several men wearing well-tailored suits emerged from the vehicles. Some of them looked like muscle-headed gangsters, and some of them more resembled intelligent businessmen. There was a clearly overbearing old man in a hakama with a crest, and what looked like a whole circle of Yakuza leaders arrived after him.
前原圭、どこだ。
前原圭、なんの。
間違え。
あんた方は誰。
おじさん、どうしてここに。ってそんな。
Shinomiyo's surprised reactions made me feel nervous.
さあ、圭一君、君戸惑うことはない。行こう。
A group of men clapped me on the shoulders. But I can't go, the police are here.
はいはいはい、沖宮署の大石です。皆さんどちらへ。
なんじゃよお前、警察が住民の代表の陳情を。
いえいえ、これはですね、相談所側からの要請に基づく出動でございまして。
Sonozaki sensei? Is he a teacher from some school? Wait, no, I don't have time to joke around. This man in a hakama must be the Sonozaki family's representative on the prefectural assembly. I heard that he's a really scary guy when he raises his voice, just like Mion's grandma.
やかましい。おお。
いやー、所長。
沖宮、後で厳重抗議しちゃう。
Oish's
首を洗って待っとけと言うておけや。
Oish's partner was doing his best not to laugh.
はいはい。でですね、施設長である相談、彼らが入るとジムに支障があるってんで、権限の範囲内で敷地からの退去を命じているわけなんです。
As Oishi-san explained in a strange, half-troubled and half-delighted manner, one of the intelligent-looking guys started talking instead of Representative Sonozaki.
どうも、園崎法律相談事務所より参りました。弁護士の園崎です。
Sonozaki from Sonozaki.
獅子骨市の条例については拝見させていただきましたが、こちらは施行条例。また前原圭一氏はひなみ沢、こちらが連合協会発行のひなみ沢連合協会は獅子骨市役所自治係の立ち会いの下で結成された全員のよって前原圭一氏は正当な手続きを経てこの陳情を拒否するのは明らかな職権以上から児童相談所長の命令が執行することは明らかであり、
わかりましたわかりました。ごめんなさい。どうぞ皆さん。
最初からさあ行くぞ圭一君。
全員で入ら。
ご心配なく、団長以下のこの人数でも業務に支障。相談所内の待合ロビーにはソファーが4機あり、10人程度の訪問
どうぞどうぞお通りください。
前原君、もう私たちをはい、
おいでな、行くぞ。
行こうみんな。やはりこれはお涼の口
だね。まさかバッチャ、この人たちにまで見て見ぬふりどころか、その崎本家最大支援じゃない。大ババ様、どういう心変わりですか？
レナは驚かない。みーちゃんのおばあちゃんきっと力になってくれるって信じてた。
Brandon knows best. That's my goat.
あのばあさんにはとんでもないことをたくさん言っちまったけど。
じゃあみんな、私たちは行ってくるね。
The crowd cheers. The main event is about to begin.
前原さん、委員長、報道お願いします。
さとこちゃんお願
前
い。
原の坊主しっかりな。
いよいよご分をでござ。
エンジェルモート敵団兵連隊退路を確保。同志の突撃を援護せ
Angel
よ。
War Grenadiers.
へい頼むぜ。やってやるぜ。
前原さん、ここで待ってます。良い知らせを待っていますよ。
必ず良い知らせを。先生も待ってますからね。
I pump my fist in the air in response to their high expectations. We enter the Child Consultation Center, backed by the power of the Sonozaki family. I finally made it. It was cool inside the building, unlike the outside world. We could still hear the crowd, but at a lower volume. It was loud enough to hear their cheers. Staff in the building must have known who we were. They tried to concentrate on their own works if they didn't see us.
前原圭一、北条聡子の即時保護について。
死のうの言わんでしょ。ひなみ沢連長の代表の
所長は代わって私が。
どうも、園崎法律相談事務所。以後の会話は全て録音させていただきます。どうか相談所として所
長の手が開くかどうか確認いたします。少々お待ちください。
原山君、お久しぶり。園崎議員、今日はひなみ沢連合町会の所長さんに会わせてください。
はい、君、所長席前の応接室にご案内してお茶をお出しして。
I guess the power of a representative can really get public officials moving. I heard that there are both prefectural and municipal representatives in the Sonozaki family. We have the power of both of them today. And that means we have nothing to fear. We were inside his office, but the head of the office wasn't to be found. I'm sure he's somewhere in the building. All the exits are blocked. There's no way he could escape from us. Better not be thinking that he can hide from us all day. The head of the office, in fact, was peeping out through the blinds of the meeting room on the second floor. He was shaking in fear.
なんで連中をな、警察は何や。
いえ、それが県議とし、あと弁護士、責任ある回答をと言われると。
そうだ、もうすぐ3時ですね。3時までここに隠れています。
No, but that's something they told us in the very beginning when we made our very first appeal, is they can't kick you out without seeing you, right? It's like, no matter what, you stay there until they see you. As they said the very first time when it was just the gang, when it was just the club going in. They're like, even if you arrive right before they close, they cannot kick you out.
そして3時になっ、その間に私は自治の係長と
自治の係長からは
町会って言うからもっと近所なんで議員が来るわ弁護士が来るわ人が200人も集まってくるわけです。
それがそのひなみ
とにかくあと10連中の前に引きずり出されたらでもね私は折れませんよ。私は公務員生活40年のだからこそ恐喝されたから折れるなんて恥さらしな真似はしたくありません。
Except you forgot they got the lawyer with them, right? In the next moment, the phone in the conference room rang loudly. The head of the office nearly jumped out of his skin. Scared even of the phone, he told the manager to tell whoever it was they wasn't there.
はい、原山です。ああ、どうも、所長、自治です。
困って連中あれから集まってにしかも下には議員だから私町会とのトラブルを水面下でなんとかしてくだそちらの担当業務です。いや別に自治は自治の仕事は
地域コミュニティのか
そんなことはとにかく何とか穏便
こうなったら向こうの建前はこの際引っ込めた方が私どもも十分ねえ所長さんちょっとここは一つ
あんた同じあんたが懲戒の手先になってと私は嫌だよちゃんとルールにの公平な事務こそ私は県の職員だその方針を認められて
まあこちらも努力私言いましたよね連中を怒らせちゃいけないも
ういいよ役に立たないならもう電話は切るよ
所長今日は3時で逃げ切ったとして父にまでサジを投げ月曜の町議で
市長に咎められるよ市長にね何を言われても
The phone rang once again. Also, once again, the head of the office trembled in fear. The manager had to reluctantly pick up the phone.
つないでくださいはいお電話ただいま変わります所長本庁からお電
Yep,
話です
it's the mayor.
父じゃなく今度は
市長から
Yep,
お電話です
it's the mayor. Get fucked,
は
bozo.
い、そうです。南沢地区6町会を、そう、ぜひ話を聞いてあげ、そんなことはあります。公平さはとても大切ですが、よろしくお願い。今日の話が終わりましたら、今日の6時までに市長、よろしくお願いいたします。
The man spoke with a gentle demeanor, but in a tone that didn't allow objection. Then the elderly man in a double suit set the receiver
す
down.
まんねえ。エロー助かったんよ。
Audio was sitting on the couch in the reception area. Akane was there with her,
と
too.
んでもない。それにしても、本庁舎に園崎さんが直接おいで。
すまんねえ。ものを頼むんかいね。すまんねえ。
いえいえ、当方の職員が大変、市政が町会の皆さんとの連携で成り立っていることを、よく指導しなかった私の不徳が招いた事態です。
So he says. However, the mayor couldn't believe that Empress Sonozaki came all the way to see him just to save one little girl. It's a huge deal when Oreo Sonozaki comes directly to his office. It's also unusual for her to do things indirectly to begin with. Rather than leading the charge herself, she was having Keiichi Maibara save Satoko. The mayor understood that she was doing this so Keiichi Maibara would get all the credit. Because of that, he was very interested in this young Keiichi Maibara.
しかし、友達を虐待から助けるために、
そう、大した若い。あんなのがいてくれたら。わしゃ。
ババ様、お迎えなんて
長い気がするもんさな。あかね。こ
あらま、私が男の子を産まなかったの、まだ根に持ってるのかい
It was now 3 p.m. and I heard the announcement that the center was closing. The head of the office finally showed up in the room. He seemed like a totally different person. When I first met him, he had a cold attitude and responded to questions with blunt answers. But now he was much nicer and agreed with everything we said. I guess the power we held must have intimidated him. If I was alone, I would have never gotten him to listen to me. It's thanks to everyone's support that I'm able to talk to him now.
本当に申し訳ございません。直ちに対応いたし、係長、北条さんのお宅に電話して。
わかりました。
Satoko, finally, you're finally free. Well, let's check our expectations. Tepe stopped kicking her as he heard the phone ring. He could ignore the call, but if it was someone from the child consultation center, they might become suspicious of him. He'd hurt Satoko enough to leave bruises. He couldn't let them visit. So, oh no. So he had no choice but to deal with them over the phone. Fuck. Because they're about to give him a heads up that someone's going to be coming down there, right? And that's going to make him react in a very unfortunate way.
これ、えんか通帳の場所。
All Satoko could do was curl up and cry.
もしもし。
お世話になっております。
まあ、あんたとこも暇や。うちばっかりかまっちょなんで。お前の給料俺の税。
申し訳ござ。これからうちの職員がお邪魔させていただき。
よろしゅわ。今な。誰もお迎えでき。また日を改めてえな。
Consultation Center wouldn't give up. Tepe wanted to hang up the phone, but if he did, he knew that he'd show up for sure.
今日はさとこさんはお休みし、病気なのに外出させ申し訳ございません。
なんじゃい。わしがさとこの親ね。
さとこさんを
拒否なんて。親がこの代わりに。我今日は得る。どういうつもり。
もう一度さとこさんを
ああ、こ
He thought dealing with government officials was a bit like playing whack-a-mole. If you hit them hard enough, they won't show up for a while. But today, whoever was on the phone seemed so provocative and self-assured. Teppei sensed they'd definitely come to the house if he didn't put Satoko on. If they sounded like that over the phone, they came to the house, they might be bringing along more than just a couple of people. For all Teppei knew, they might even bring a police officer. If they did, he couldn't turn them away at the entrance. He knew too well just how scary police officers could be. He covered the phone with his hand and spoke to Satoko downstairs. Even though he had just been beating her, Teppei was addressing Satoko in a sweet, phony voice. It would disturb people to hear him talk like that. Satoko knew that his sweet voice was the scariest tone of voice he had. She couldn't refuse after hearing him talk like that, so she obeyed him and went upstairs. Teppei grabbed Satoko's shoulders with all his might and whispered in her ear. He squeezed her shoulders even tighter. Satoko contorted her face in pain. Teppei gave the phone to Satoko as soon as she nodded. He stood behind her, continuing to grip her shoulders tight. It was like a raptor gripping its prey with its sharp talons. The volume on the phone was low enough that Teppei couldn't hear what they were saying. It's going to be similar to like what went down with Oishi and Keiichi in the last chapter when Reina was holding the school hostage. She's like, say this if you're in trouble. Say this, you know. Say, yes, we're a happy family. However, he squeezed Satoko's shoulders harder and urged her to say something, because her silence could be interpreted as a negative answer.
おじさんとの生活は
そうですか。はいはい。もしもし、サトコか、俺だ。無事か。
無事ですわよ。
いいか、サトコ。児童相談所の所長は、お前が所長だけじゃないぞ。ミヨンのばあさんがそこまで動いてくれたんだぜ。
Satoko always felt bitter toward the Sonozaki family because they were often the ones talking about her behind her back. She hated Oreo most of all. It didn't make sense to her that Oreo would do anything to help her.
確かにダム戦争以降、俺は鈍感だから気づかなかったが、でもな、そんなのはもうひなみ沢には誰一人お前に見せられないのが残念だぜ。今明日の綿流しの祭りの準備を放り出して、お前をはい、ミヨンのばあさんいるだろ。サトコに伝えてくれ。今まで冷たくしてごめん。今度ぜひみんなでな。あのばあさんも、あのばあさん、お前を助けだから。それは俺たちお前の仲間だ。みんながサトコのために。人の数はどんどん増えて。ちょっと待て。リカちゃん。
サトコ、リカです。リカ。ケイイチたちがもうひなみ沢はだから僕だけがおまけをもらえてサトコに冷たくする人はもういないのです。
Satoko wasn't sure if she should feel happy or sad that Rika noticed how badly the villagers were treating her. All she could do was let out a bitter laugh.
そんなのってそうね、私も信じる。リカ?
Satoko was surprised. She was surprised to hear Rika's voice sound so mature over the phone. She almost sounded like a different person.
あなたが鉄平に連れ去られた時、どうやっても助けられない袋子。あなたもそうだったはず。でも抜けられない袋。どんな壁も金魚すくいの網よりもサトコ。私たちはあなたがうなずくだけでも。
でも私、
あなたのトラウマ、それを克服し、あなたはおばのいじめをその食材のためにいじめに屈せず。それはもしサトシが今こっきっとムーって
いいね
なんて思った。全然ダメね。あなたはサトシの強さなんかに全然追いついていない。
I see what she's going for, though. Rika's words were suddenly toned with malice, penetrating Satoko's heart the moment she thought she was saved.
あなたは耐えることがそれが昔とどう違うというの。今のあなたは結局サトシにかばって。あなたはサトシがどれだけの強さを。サトシはね、戦った恐ろしいおば。あなたを救う。思い出しなさい。あなたが泣き叫ぶほどに恐れたあのおばに両手を広げてあなたの前に立ってかばってくれたサトシの姿を。
Satoshi was just as scared as Satoko was. All she'd ever seen was her brother's back. She had no idea what kind of expression he was wearing on his face. He didn't want to stand in front of his furious aunt, but he had no choice if he wanted to protect his sister. Satoko never once saw how scared he was. She never once saw how courageous he was in spite of that.
立ち向かって耐えたんじゃない。戦ったの。私もかつてはどうせダメだと思って立ち向かうのをやめ、運命に屈し助けを求めたってそれはいじけて誰かに助けてもらう。でもね、だから圭一から受話この運命のだから聡子、鉄平。
ええ、いますわ。
さあ、その恐ろしそしてその恐ろしさ、もしあなたがサトシに対サトシの勇気をそれにどうか気づきなさい。
Satoko slowly looked back at her uncle, though she was afraid to do so. He was wearing an unpleasantly broad grin while gripping her shoulders so tightly. Ultimately, it wasn't even really about dealing with her aunt or uncle. It was about dealing with her fear. Satoshi faced his fear. He could have chosen to run from it, or to sit and take it, but he fought for his little sister instead. He fought that fear and didn't falter. And what was Satoko doing? She believed that the violence she was suffering was the punishment she deserved. However, Rika wasn't wrong. Satoko wasn't trying to gain strength at all. She was only shutting herself out until someone came to save her. She wasn't doing anything on her own. She was only waiting for someone else to do something about it. Satoshi faced it. He faced this fear. That was his strength.
足が奥歯が振る背中の産毛がその感触すべて、そして分かってサトシがあなたに何を見習って欲しかったか、それが分からん。サトシは永遠に帰ってきたりするもんか。
なんじゃ、長い電話だの。
Satoko was consumed by fear. Her teeth were chattering and she felt shivers running down her spine. And that was what Satoshi felt every time she cried.
サトコ、この一年サトシのような勇気。
リカ、でも
Even if she asked for help that very minute, Teppei wasn't just going to disappear. When she asked for help, she needed to survive until someone physically came to her house to rescue her. Satoko ached all over her body. Her wounds were pulsing along with her heartbeat. She could taste the blood in her mouth. It wasn't as easy as Rika made it sound. One nod wasn't going to solve everything at once. They had no idea how hard it was for her to nod. What did her Nini look like when he protected her? She couldn't remember his face, but she remembered the strength in his words. She even may have heard a little bit of fear in his voice. But even so, he still fought. He faced his fears and fought for her sake. Satoko was scared, just like Rika said. Her teeth were chattering and she felt shivers running down her spine. But she had to face him. She had to challenge him, to fight him, and to break the cycle.
サトコ、これから受話あなたの口で。
ええ、ええ。
Oh god, I gotta prepare myself for what comes next, man. It's not gonna be good. I mean, it's gonna be a little bit of good, but it's gonna be a lot of
あなたの勇気
もしもし、相談所のもう一度確認いたしますが、鉄平さんとのその後の生活は問題ありませんね。
Oh fuck, I wasn't even... Yeah, okay, I wasn't even... Okay, no, that was still part of that, okay. But no. Shit, god, I keep pressing all the wrong buttons. Log. Satoko looked at Teppei again as she listened to the question. Looked straight into the face of terror. All she ever did was hide behind Satoshi's back. Show me that courage. It wasn't only Rika. Her Nini was watching her too.
はい、もう一度お願いします。
私を助けて!
The moment the words left her mouth, Teppei clocked his knees upside her head with every bit of strength he had in him. Satoko rode down the hallway, still clutching the telephone receiver.
あんたなんか出てってここは私とニーニーの私たちかあんたなんかで
こん野郎
Satoko wasn't going to just take a beating any longer. Instead, she spread her arms wide and jumped onto her uncle. Of course, that wasn't going to hurt Teppei at all. Satoko was as weak as a newborn puppy to him. That was, however, the best attack she had at her disposal. Satoko was fighting for the first time in her life. She had decided to stop waiting for somebody to save her. In the end, Satoko was the only one who could save herself. Enduring her uncle's violence had never meant anything at all. She had thought she learned something from her Nini, but she had been mistaken this whole time. But just as Teppei raised his fist, someone loudly hammered on the front door. Teppei couldn't help but jump in surprise. It'd barely been a minute since Satoko asked for help over the phone.
早くぶち破って入るぞこら
Oh. Oh.
どうでしたか、さとこちゃんは。
さとこちゃんはこれで相談所は動きます。
それより逆上した鉄平がサトコに乱暴するかもしれない。
Oh, okay. Did Oishi? Did Oishi actually come in clutch? In other words, Satoko had been brave enough to do that in front of her uncle.
早く行かないと。誰か車を回して。
Several of the villagers came by car, started their engines. The crowd started to realize what was going on. Damn it. Coming as fast as we can, Satoko.
前原さん、大丈夫ですよ。ついさっき工場機サトコさんに暴行を加える時間なんて。
どうして？
さて、とにかく一件落着ならこの集団解散してくる。それじゃひとまずこの場は失礼します。
Oh my god. Oh my god. I just gotta take a moment. This thing that the same anxiety that they were all feeling was building up in me. Like, yeah, she said something, but now she's got to survive till someone gets there. But fucking Oishi, of all people, came in clutch. It's like, I don't know, what a crazy coincidence. There just happened to be a police officer there. Huh, wild. Anywho. Just like this wave of relief, like the adrenaline just leaving the body, just like, Fuck.
それでは良いお年を。
大石はさとこの電話を聞くのと同時に無線でどこかさとこちゃんの家の前にあらかじめ警察の人がいてくれたってことなのかな。
そっか、リナ殺しの件で警察が張り込んでたわけだ。なるほどね。
リナって誰だ？
皆さん、早くひなみ沢に戻りましょう。
There were several officers combing the Hojo residence. Satoko was sitting by the porch talking with another officer. She had some painful looking bruises all over her face.
さとこちゃん、大丈夫？大丈夫？あははは。これが大丈夫に。
監督、さとこを見てあげてください。
とにかく、さとこちゃん、自分で歩けますか？
Satoko nodded to the coach and stood up. Looked painful for her, but even so, I felt relieved to see her better than I expected. However, the cruel bruises inflicted over her body were all too horrible to look at. I'll never forgive that man for abusing a little girl like her. My body shivered in anger.
さとこ。リカ、私、やるときはちゃんとやるんですのよ。ええ、あなたの勇気。あなたは勝った。運命に打ち勝った。
Both Rika-chan and Satoko cried and hugged each other. I soon heard another car coming. I immediately knew who it had to be. It was Oishi-san's police cruiser.
どうもお役に立てなくて。
いえ、大石さんが起点を聞かせてくれなかったらありがとうございました。
大石のおじさまもたまには。
それで
監督が見てくれてだいぶひどい怪我をしてるようでした。
ああ、クマちゃん、鉄平はどうしました？
確保しました。さっき小宮山さんたちの車で署へ移したそうです。
じゃあ逮捕され。
別に逮捕されて死刑とか無期懲役ってわけじゃない。考えたくはないけど、いつか戻ってくるんだろ
う。まあそうはさせないけどね。
おや、園崎家の次期当主が脅迫とかはいけませんよ。
脅迫じゃないですよ。ひなみ沢や沖宮の界隈に帰ってくると。
ああ、忠告なら仕方ありませんね。
Oh, well, if it's just a friendly piece of advice, then there's no problem there.
これで、さとこちゃんは本当これで全部
さてね。
See, that's the thing, right? Everyone's had like their peaceful resolutions. I imagine it's going to end fairly well. There's still Watanagashi. There's still the fates of Takano and Tomitake to consider. So, I know credits ain't rolling yet.
急は要さないけど、まだ鉄平の親権が喪失すれば、 新しい後見人を定めなく、聡子の権利関係とかいろいろね。でもそれは大丈夫。抹茶が腰を上げてくれた以上、聡子の不利になるようなことには絶対ならない。
聡子は診療所でも入江の話では。
そうか、それはよかった。
聡子ちゃんは明日にはもう退院できるのかな。
さすがにあの怪我が1日で完治。
違いますですよ、みー。明日は綿流しのお祭りなのです。
なんだか大変な1週間だった気がするけど、もし綿流しのお祭りを全員で迎えられたなら、それって結局。
私たちが取り戻したかった世界をようやく取り戻せた証な。
そうだね。聡子だってケイちゃんの叩き売りはきっと見たいと思うよ。
すっかり忘れていたけど、今頃プレッシャーが。
聡子は絶対に来ますですよ。
Before I knew it, lots of people from the village had joined us. They were the same people who came to the Child Consultation Center to support us. They wanted to know if Satoko was safe. Considering her injuries, safe might not be the right word. However, she is free from the curse of her uncle now. Her emotional scars will slowly heal. We'll be there for her, as her friends. No, it wasn't just us anymore. The whole village is going to be there for her. The ghost of the dam conflict won't haunt Satoko any longer. It was a very long week. In this 1 week, we united, we fought, we overcame, and we won. It wasn't an easy victory. However, the price we paid was more than worth it. Tomorrow is the Watanagashi Festival, the biggest festival in the village. It's a huge event where we worship the guardian of this village, Oyashiro-sama. Oyashiro-sama is a god who united two enemy peoples. The curse on the Hojo family has disappeared, and Satoko is truly going to be a part of the village. We'll all be playing at the festival together. This is a perfect happy ending. When our ordinary days were taken from us, we all felt so powerless. But now we have everything back. What else can you call that but a miracle? No, you can't actually call it that. Miracles can be created when everyone works together. What's impossible to do alone becomes possible when everyone joins forces. With everyone's power, we're able to make impossible things happen. That's only a natural outcome of everyone doing their best together. So it's not a miracle. In other words, it was inevitable. The old legends in this village tell us that Oyashiro-sama made it possible for humans and demons to live together. I'm not sure what that story really means, but I'm sure that Oyashiro-sama made something impossible happen. We can be proud of what we did. I'm sure Oyashiro-sama is proud too.
毎バラやったな。
やりましたね。連日押しかけた甲斐がありました。
My supporters cheered me on. They were all glad that Satoko was finally safe. The sense of accomplishment at saving Satoko finally hit us, and we hugged each other, sharing praises for our struggle.
「傷つけば傷つくほど心は臆病になっていった。悲しい思いが深ければ深いほど幸せを喜べなくなっていった。幾千度と繰り返されてきた同じ時間、同じ世界。笑顔を忘れてしまった少女は心に鍵をかけて引きこもるが、その隙間から差し込んでくる光に気づいて顔を上げる。パンドラの希望は本当に存在していたのだろうか。皆殺し。取り戻した勇気とともに明かされた闇の真実。諦めていた未来はすぐ目の前にあった。
That was the title drop? I'm sorry, that was the title drop? Like, I know there's definitely still more in store, like I said before, with the festival coming up and all that typically happens with the festival. Hold up. Hold up. What you mean title drop? Let me pull up something here real quick here. What you mean title drop? How much more is actually here? I guess I never really checked to see just how deep I was into this. Let's see, I've already done 3 recordings of chapter 7 so far. 4 hours. Yeah, that's roughly about 4 hours. That's 8. Last one was 2.5. So it's already 10.5 hours. We're already 10.5 hours. And that was before I started recording today. There's another 2 hours on top of that. That's 15 hours. Like, obviously, I know these take a bit longer because I take time to read it out loud, and then obviously my reactions and voicing my thoughts and whatnot. That's not 15. 8. 4 and 4 is 8. 10.5, so around 13. I was a little bit off. Still, I'm already 13 hours deep. As of this point in time, 13 hours deep. What do you mean they're doing the title drop now? How much is actually in store? You got me kind of worried just how long this is actually gonna go. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm here for it. I'll take whatever they throw at me, but goddamn. Satoko and Rikichan were already there waiting for me. While the injuries on her face, covered with band-aids, looked painful, Satoko seemed to be full of life. It almost looked as though her wounds were from playing too hard or something.
じゃあ、ゆうべは結局診療所に。
ええ、私は全然平気ですのよって言ったんですけど、監督たちが一晩様子を見たいなんておっしゃりますもので。
お医者さんがそうしろって言うんだから素直に従って。
診療所で一人でお泊まりするのが怖い。夜の診療所には成仏してない霊がいっぱいいるそうだからね。
I mean, honestly, if I were Satoko, I'd be scared to stay in the clinic alone just because of who the fuck runs the clinic. To be perfectly honest.
サトコは僕と一緒でないと眠れない体になってしまったのですよ。はあ、どうして一緒じゃないと眠れないのかな。
それはですね、リカちゃまじゃないとサトコの体の夜泣きよ。
No sooner had Shion finished that sentence than a bucket went flying into her face. Satoko started chasing Shion in circles like they were playing tag. Really missed this rambunctious fun.
こんな当たり前の
そうだな。でもな、俺たちでな。
主に頑張ったのはケイイチが相談所に訴えようと自分で言い出して。
そうだね。ケイちゃんが最大の功労者である今回の一件で、ひなみ沢に前原ケイイチありってのはだいぶ知れ渡ったと思う。
はあ、ケイイチくん有名になってモテモテになっちゃう。
そりゃあモテモテになるね。婦人会のおばさま方にチヤホヤされちゃうよ。いよ、モテる男はつらいね。
I'd be fine with that if I could divide their ages by 3. Many people were wearing yukatas. It was still June, but it felt more like it was the middle of summer. Once we finished climbing the stairs, we could see the festival and the crowd enjoying it. The Hurade shrine was packed with people, leaving the grounds looking nothing like their usual quiet self. Lanterns of various colors were hung about, and people were swarming the various festival booths, giving the whole place an unorganized yet pleasant atmosphere.
すげえ、ひなみ沢ってこんなに人がいたんだ。
綿流しのお祭りはみんな来るよ。多分ひなみ沢の人の半分くらいは来てるんじゃないかな。
それだけじゃないよ。近隣の町の町会や子供会も招待してる。
そうだよな。俺たちの学校、あれ今日は子供の姿がやたらたくさんある。
お祭りの賑やかさはやっぱり子供の賑やかさだからね。
She's right. I'm in agreement there. There were lots of booths around too. They were by far the best part of the festival. Booths selling takoyaki, yakisoba, shaved ice, apricot candy, sauce senbei, chocolate bananas. There was a yo-yo game, a goldfish game, a shooting gallery. There were countless booths here.
露天商は町からわざわざ来てくれてるんだよ。やっぱりこういうのがないとお祭りは盛り上がらないよね。
で、それを俺たちは荒らして回るわけか。どんな勝負にせよ、俺は負けないぜ。
そうだね。頑張ろう。
ハロロン、遅れて申し訳ない。私がビリでした。ならこれで全員揃いましたね。
このメンバーが揃うとのんびりお祭りを楽しもうということにはなりませんのね。
そりゃそうだよ。今年も行くよ。綿流し祭。6人か。六強爆投。
さとこ、今年は気兼ねしないで思いっきり楽しみましょうなのです。
頼まれなくても気が大暴れさせていただきますのよ。
よっしゃサト、その意気だぜ。
You go, girl.
昨日までのことなんか今夜で吹き飛ばしちゃいましょう。
今日はみんなで思いっきり遊ぼう。全員が揃うなんて1週間ぶりだもんね。
そうさそう、今夜は全員で祭りを遊び倒すよ。
As we ran around frolicking, a lot of people approached Satoko. Some were concerned for her injuries, some sympathized with how she'd been treated so far, some even insisted she could rely on them if ever in need. And all of that must have been disconcertingly fresh for Satoko, who wasn't used to it. Satoko said all the unusual kindness was making her feel uncomfortable instead. I knew she was just being shy. Right now, this was just what it took for Satoko to truly feel that the village had been reborn.
おや皆さん、早速はしゃぎ回っているようですね。
やあリカちゃん、約束通りに来たよ。盛大に盛り上がってるね。
どちら様でございますのか。リカの知り合いですの？赤坂は肝心な時にいなくて使えないのです。
え、なんだろう。私怒らせるようなことを。
な、実はですね、赤坂さんが温泉へ行かれているほんの1週間ほどの間に。
はあ、リカちゃんが知らないお兄さんと知り合いかな。
何よ、どちら様。おじさんたちにも紹介してよ。
Nagasaka had arrived, had believed what it took to change fate was the power of an influential individual, or so I thought. It turned out that was a misunderstanding. Individuals don't make miracles, everyone must come forward to make them happen. That's why when I thought I could defeat fate as long as I had Akasaka by my side, it was all in my head. Even if he had been there by my side, we probably wouldn't have been able to do anything and would have only disappointed ourselves. I'm not saying that Akasaka was at fault, it's not the point at all. I may have considered him useless, perhaps. Even I'm rather astonished at my foul-mouthedness. Let's forget about such things tonight. It's been a couple of decades. Why not celebrate our reunion instead?
おや、前原の坊主じゃないか。噂には聞いてるぜ。
なんでもお寮のばあさんとやるね。
Good on you.
そんな平和に話し合い。
しかし偉いな。みんなを率いてお役所とちゃんと交渉したんだもんな。前原のお兄ちゃん、何もいる？
圭一くん、今日はモテモテだね。圭一は熟した果実がお好きに違いないのです。
He would be if he wasn't a coward.
リカが何を言ってるかわかりませんが、どうせろくな意味ではありませんわね。
Keiichi got a lot of attention too wherever he went. In order to save Satoko, he took the initiative, and hence his leadership abilities were known throughout the village. Moreover, him persuading the village council and Oreo herself were now legendary tales of his heroism. Everyone had understood just how much Satoko had been ostracized by the whole village, and they had also understood how reasonable it was for it to continue long after the dam war was over. Seeing Keiichi's efforts to break through that taboo so refreshingly was a glimpse of a new future ahead for the village, and his heroic deeds were praised by all young and old. With that said, now Keiichi Maibara had become the hot topic amongst the Hinamizawan people. Naturally, everybody wanted a glimpse of this Maibara Keiichi, and hence the bargain auction saw an unprecedented turnout. Even though he started off red-faced, once he got over his shyness, Keiichi showed his true colors, eliciting rapturous cheers from the crowd with sheer energy and momentum. The Watanagashi of Showa 58 of that day became home to this special fervor that was never before seen. Now Keiichi has the admiration and recognition of the noble of the village. Even after this, I'm sure Keiichi will continue to steer the village to new adventures to come. Having such a young leader appear has made the villager elders rather reassured. God damn. Give me some time to read, please.
昨日助けに来てくれたおじさん。昨日はどうもありがとうございました。
あ、紹介が遅れて県議会議員をされてる三郎おじさんだよ。こっちは市議会議員をされてるケンおじさん。
We have Saburo and Ken. He's just Ken.
昨日は来るのが遅くなってすまんかったね。相談所への道を一本間違えちゃってな。
いや、でも頼もしかったです。やっぱり議員は強いですね。
住民の代わりに喧嘩をするのが仕事だからな。強くて当然だわい。
さとこちゃんも無事で
これからは何かあったらいつで必ず味方になりますよ。
They rubbed Satoko's head while they spoke.
ありがとうございますですわ。
I love her flustered little smile. It's so cute, man. Back in the main tent, having been the last two to rush in, were the many influential Sonozakis. They were all folk who became indebted to yesterday, except Satoko. Everyone bowed their heads. Until just a few days ago, everyone present was someone who could have been bad-mouthing the Hojo family if they had sat down to drink. But Keiichi had broken through it all, having reflected upon their thoughtless insensitivities and how any of these people will discriminate against Satoko again. In fact, they bowed their heads, apologized for their actions, promised their assistance if anything were to come up in the future.
本当に立派なお子さんをお持ちで羨ましいですな。
いえいえ、ケイイチなんてとんでもない。お父さんたちも来たぞ。
ケイイチくんのご両親だ。こんばんは。はじめましてなの。ケイイチのニャーニャーをしております。リカなのです。
Meow meow. I'm like, Keiichi, what does she mean by that?
どうも、北条聡子と。
あなたが聡子、こんなにひどい怪我をして。
今後も何かあったらケイイチをそれと引き換えと言ってはなんですが。
なんだか監督と近い属性を感じるお父様ですわね。
Yes, but not near as bad. He doesn't openly state his fantasies. He keeps that in his brain. You know what? We respect that restraint around here.
すまん、こういう親父なんだ。
でも、温かくて楽しそうなお父様でしたよ。
Keiichi's parents were also at the festival. They were made quite the fuss of for having such a magnificent son, being the parents of today's big hero. According to Keiichi, since his parents rarely left the house for being busy, there was a good chance for them to interact with the villagers. Keiichi's father had proudly volunteered to make posters for the town council if need ever arose. I heard from Keiichi that the posters his father makes are so good that people steal them. I look forward to seeing just what kind of posters they are.
こんな楽しい綿流しのお祭
Shut
り
up.
は僕も初めて見ます
You
ので
pissed
す。
me off. You were nothing but a wet blanket and a fucking downer and a fucking doomer. I'm pissed at you. You irritate me. Even when Rika was feeling the tides turning, she's like, you know what, I am gonna give it my all. And you're like, maybe you shouldn't though. Like, nah. Hanyu, you're on my shit list. Genuinely, like, this one's gonna come at a shock. I know. Just wait. Genuinely, I think less of Hanyu than I do of Shion. Y'all know I don't fuck with Shion like that. But goddamn, at least in this moment, Shion stepped up to the plate. She was willing to keep her emotions in check while the rest of the gang like got things figured out. And she came in clutch when she needed to. Like, I'm not saying I'm a big Shion fan, but like, credit where credit is due. While Hanyu the worst of Hanyu doesn't come close to the worst of Shion, obviously. Like, she doesn't have much going for her in the good department. Like, what's the best of Hanyu? She makes a silly face. She makes some funny noises. That's it. Otherwise, all she ever did was just be a massive fucking downer. And just like, next time. A massive procrastinator. She tried to suck the hope out of Rika. Like, no hope. Don't hope. Just let things happen. Don't be hopeful. Just let it happen. Nah. Like, obviously, you know, people like Teppei, Rina, obviously much worse in the grand scheme of things. Obviously. But they get taken care of, right? They get dealt with. Hanyu? That's number one on the op list. I'm gonna be so honest. Like I said, Teppei, Rina, much worse, deserve a much worse fate. I mean, fuck, Rina ends up in a much worse position if we think about it. But Hanyu, she just gets to walk free and enjoy the festival. This candy's so sweet. Oh, I'm glad you're eating all this candy, Eureka. Great time. Best festival ever. That's all that happens to you for being, the biggest fucking downer, the biggest fucking leech of hope out of Rika's system. Like, nah. I need Rika to eat something mad spicy ASAP. I'm gonna need that expeditiously.
そうね、私も初めてよ。というか、 あんたの方が長い。あんたが初めてなら私にとって。でもきっと綿流しという名前の。そもそも綿流しのお祭りが明治以降は退屈な古出家の、それ以前は鷹の好みのお祭りだったはず。
Yeah, talk about them things, Rika. What were those original festivals like?
今日は意地悪はなしね。
Nah, okay, you know what? Rika can take the higher ground, alright? I respect it. She's like, you know what? We're all having a good time. We're all having a good time. I'm not gonna take shots at anyone, alright? We're just gonna enjoy the good time. I'll let her have that. Me personally, though, if I had this little shit in my brain, I mean, I'd already be eating spicy food in general. I fuck with spicy food, but like, I'd be eating hella spicy food. I'd make myself sick off of spicy food. Give me all the spicy food. Give me all the fucking wine and sake we can find. Let's go to fucking town.
楽しみましょう。私たちも。
Like I'm saying, bigger person than I am.
私とあなたを祭る夜なんだから。
I heard Hanyu whisper in disbelief that only recently there was a world where Shion tortures Satoko to death. That horrific world, this happy ending world, is all the same in Hinamizawa. I'm sure that people who only know this world believe unwaveringly that Hinamizawa was destined to have a happy ending. Only Hanyu and I know, only the bystanders know, that here in Hinamizawa, beyond a membrane so thin, it was even thinner than a goldfish catching net. There were more worlds which had met tragic ends. Which is why I'm certain that we understand better than anybody else just how much of a blessing this world is. If Keiichi and the others give in to their temper without fighting side by side, this day would have never come. If Keiichi lost his temper, he would have committed a crime today. The same goes for Shion. She would be a criminal by today. In Reina's case, she would have already been 3 moves ahead and would have finished the burial by now. Only Mion never blew her fuse. Not sure whether to call her prudent or cowardly. Oops, that was uncalled for. Fuck. Of course, there was actually a world where I lost it. I ended up getting myself killed. How hopeless. Anyway, none of those worlds were any good, and we weren't able to take back our happy world. So I'd given up hope, but nobody else had. We all united to bring about the miracle that needed to happen. The miracle happened because everyone united. This might come across as self-aggrandizing, but I don't think there would have been a miracle if I had just given up and denied unity. During that last call, if I hadn't taken away the phone receiver from Keiichi, I don't think Satoko would have sought out our help. True. That's it. The miracle that couldn't have happened without everybody coming together. The miracle that wouldn't have been if even one of us had given up. Thanks to Keiichi, who taught me how easy it is to break through fate. I, who had given up from the outset. If everything is fate and there is a meaning to Keiichi's existence, just what is it trying to tell me? I already knew the meaning of resisting fate and the means to fight it. Never again will I give in to fate, not once more. The mere opposite of what Hanyu told me, not to hold expectations for anything. Even Hanyu must be able to cause some sort of miracle if she just believed without giving up. Or so I tried telling her, but she's stubborn at the oddest times and evaded me with a simple ow ow. You gonna go black bars? Alright. I skipped a moment in there accidentally because, like, that's the thing. Sometimes, after enough time, it does just auto go. But, like, if I finish it in time, I can press the enter button to make it go first. So there was a moment there where, like, I guess I had reached just the point where the automatic transition happened, but then I also pressed the enter button as I finished. So I'm hoping I can look in the log and see just what the line I skipped was, but... A faded notebook. Whose notebook? Interesting. Show me the log. No. I cannot see what line I skipped. I guess I'll have to... I'll see it for the first time in the edit. Watch, therefore, for ye know not what hour your Lord doth come. But know this, that if the the good men of the house had known in what watch the thief would come, he would have watched, but would not have suffered his house to be broken up. Therefore be ye also ready, for in such an hour as ye think not the Son of Man cometh. Even God doesn't know when he will descend once more. He is constantly prepared for that day to come. Have faith in your God at all times. Your God doesn't even know when he'll see the light. Do not spare any effort. Study hard every day. Have the passion for discovery. You never know when you will be rewarded, but that day will come for sure. Until then, you must let the fires of your passion burn bright. Hifumi T. Hifumi? Do we know Hifumi? Hifumi T? Like, my brain sees that, I just immediately think of Hifumi Togo from Persona 5. Obviously, that's not it, but, Hifumi. Do we know any T's? That's the thing, there's a dot after Hifumi. Well, I guess... Well, I don't know. Various areas of the world use commas and dots and periods differently, so like it could be like a last name, comma, first initial type thing that we would do here in America, but maybe it's different in Japan, I'm not sure. Hifumi T. T. Like the only T I can really think of is Tepe. Obviously it's not Tepe. For one, he would never write like that. And for two, obviously he locked up. And even if he weren't locked up, that's just not how he would ever write. Hifumi T. T. Okay. Because that's the thing, we know Tomitake and Takano are here, right? But they both seem to be, like, connected to the government in some capacity, right? They're working with Ire at the clinic for something, right? Tomitake being more connected to the government, Takano being... I think Takano has her government connections as well, but she's more connected to the clinic. But they both have, like, some kind of government connections, as Takano had access to some kind of fucking hit squad, apparently. Hifumi T. So mayhaps it's an alias of one of them? Because I know them to have T names. Technically their first names wouldn't start with T. Takano is Mio and Tomitake is Jiro. The T is the last name. But I can't really think of any other T that would hold any significance. A faded notebook. And maybe it's someone we don't even know yet. Totally possible. We know Takano kept notebooks. That's something we do know. Where are we going?
そんなことを言っでもどうして僕と高野さんが殺されなきゃならないんだい？
あら、私たちが5年目のたたりに名前を連ねられる。
As I'd expected, they didn't really take me telling them that they'd be killed on the night of the festival seriously. They did keep their promise to tighten up my security after I showed them the ritual storehouse. However, they hadn't given one thought to their own safety. Oh well, like I said, I didn't expect them to believe me. They were willing to take me seriously. I could have easily changed their fate a long time ago.
もう一度言いますです。富武は、高野は、どこか遠くの山奥で
喉をかきむしるって、それは大丈夫だよ。僕はちゃんと注射を受けてる。
The terminal symptoms of L5. Okay. So clearly that is part of whatever they're Okay. So they're doing some kind of virus research here, right? They're researching some kind of virus, some kind of condition, but it's kind of being kept on the low. Takano and Tomitake have like some connections to whatever government organization is making this, is, you know, funding this research. But I'm guessing after tragedy strikes, right, and something happens to Tomitake and Takano, who are like the connections there, that's when the well, that's the thing, they say it's the gas leak, right? They say it's a gas leak, but what if it is actually this disease that spreads, right? And all of these, people who are there at cleanup, have to sign essentially NDAs and be like, no, you cannot talk about what you see here at the dab site ever, here in this village ever, because it's not at all what the report is. And then they fill in the swamp and blame it on that, blame it on something like that. Because that is the thing. Because that is like the one hint they kind of gave us with chapter 3, right? Is that Keiichi falling off, surviving his fall to the bridge, off the bridge, I mean, that even if he did realistically survive that fall, somehow that even if there had been a gas leak of some kind, the gas would have been heavier than the air and it would have fallen into that ravine that he had fallen into. And at the same time, Keiichi never actually saw the bodies, right? When we see him climbing out of the ravine, he runs into whatever government soldiers are there, right? What was it, the SDF, I think? Self-Defense Forces? The military soldiers that are there, but he never actually sees any of the bodies. He sees the body bags, but he never sees any of the actual bodies, so he doesn't know their condition. So I'm guessing there must be some kind of outbreak, right? Something happens at the clinic. They know that Tomitake and Takano they get targeted because obviously they have the means to provide more support to the clinic if anything were to happen, right? If something were to go wrong, like if someone were to break into the clinic, Tomitake and Takano have the connections to bring people in. So that could make sense as to why they get dealt with every time. They're always the targets, right? No matter what, they are always the targets. And it would also make sense why eventually the doctor ends up, quote unquote, killing himself. I can't imagine being too difficult to force sleeping pills down a dude's throat. Someone breaks into this facility. Somehow there's like this outbreak, right? And that's why it gets sealed off for as long as it does, right? Because which chapter was it? I believe it was the last chapter, chapter 6, because that's the one that had like the epilogue where Akasaka actually re-enters the modern day, or at least what was then the modern day Hinamizawa. And I think that's when he points out that, there had been other instances of, natural gas explosions like this, but they get unsealed so much quicker than what happened with Hinamizawa. That's part of what makes him so suspicious of it. So I'm guessing there is some kind of virus outbreak that happens at the hospital. Somehow it spreads throughout the village. Obviously, it does what it does. And they essentially, dispose of all the bodies, seal off the village, but it has to be sealed off for much longer, and wait for this virus to essentially die off. That's why it takes so long to get unsealed, because they have to wait for the virus itself to die out. Okay. So now the question I want to think about is if saving Takano and Tomitake are key to breaking the cycle, right? That's one of the big keys to breaking the cycle. Tomitake and Takano's death are inherently linked to Rika's death. We learned that from the very beginning. That's one of the rules set in place. So for Rika to truly have her happy ending, she has to save the lives of Takano and Tomitake. Has to. That is a must to achieve her happy ending. So clearly, like Tomitake mentions, he's taking the shots for this sickness and whatnot. If he were to come into direct contact with it, obviously that would cause him to face the end that he does. Whereas Takano, I think more so what I'm trying to think of is not necessarily how to prevent it, kind of how to prevent it, but first you have to think of how do they end up in those situations, right? That's kind of been like the thought from the beginning, but now that we have a lot more information than we had at the beginning. It's like, how do these things happen? All right, if there was no natural gas explosion and it was this virus outbreak, right? How then does, and if that's something, so even if we come to the conclusion that this virus outbreak and the virus, whatever this illness, this sickness is that they're researching, is being secured somewhere specifically, well, that's the thing. Another thing they keep saying is that the researcher, that is Irie, Tomitake, Takano, the people involved, they mentioned that Rika herself is also a very important part of it. We're never really explained to why she's an important part of it, but Rika herself is an important part of it. And it's almost as if when something happens to Rika, that's when we see something happen to Irie, right? At least that's what happens in chapter 3, right? Because there's like the police officers around the clinic when he like first rescues Satoko from the house. There's police officers around the clinic, and that's when he learns that Irie had overdosed on the meds. And then after that, he and Satoko flee the scene, and that's when they discover Rika's body in front of the shrine. So clearly those events kind of happen one after another. So it almost seems as if they were keeping Rika somewhere. That like Rika goes to the clinic at some point to see Irie, perhaps, for one reason or another. And like, so like my suspicion has been, like, they don't mention what Rika's involvement is, but my suspicion is that she is somehow a carrier of this sickness, but she has some kind of immunity to it, right? Something like that. She herself doesn't suffer from the symptoms, but she carries it. So that when she dies, right, when she's murdered, like, there's a reason they kind of like strew out the guts, maybe that is somehow has some connection to the disease. I don't know, because that is somehow how some disease spreads. It's why you should avoid corpses if you're not a medical professional trained to deal with corpses, because there can be illnesses that spread out of corpses. That's why, like, in some ages, like with plagues and shit in the medieval times, they just straight up burned bodies. And I think there are still some illnesses today that, like, if you die from that illness, they have to cremate your body. So, like, that is part of it, because just leaving the body to rot can cause whatever disease or sickness to spread. So, like, I feel like that's kind of the case that Rika's in. And maybe she does suffer from symptoms of it. Maybe the fact that we see Hanyu at all, right? Maybe the fact that she believes she's been a part of this 100-year cycle, right? Maybe that's part of her own hallucinations. I could see that being the case, right? Because if this were... I don't know if this story really does, but if it were to kind of be in the same vein as Umineko did, where like the story is presented with supernatural elements, but the actual core of the truth is grounded in reality, right? There is no true supernatural involvement in the actual mystery and the answer to the mystery itself. They're all just elements there to tell the story and give you hints as to what truly happened. So I think realistically, Rika wouldn't be this woman who had, survived all these, this, century worth of cycles, in the same way that in Umineko, Burncastle herself is this fictional witch that is there to help tell the story and was not and did not actually hold any influence over the actual events of what happened on the Rokenjima, right? So, like, the witch isn't real, but Rika herself is a real girl. So I could see that. I could see that. That's interesting. And that could be why Tomitake and Takano are also kind of hesitant to believe that, right? Oh, this could be one of her delusions. Right? Maybe this is part of her symptom. This could be a potential symptom of her own condition. Right? I could see it. But even if that were the case, even if that were the case as to what happens with Rika, even if that does kind of explain away why Irie ends up taking his own life, several days after the Watanagashi, the real question is, how do Tomitake and Takano end up in their scenarios? That is the real question. Takano, I feel like could be something as easy as she just gets kidnapped, right? Because even when, whenever they find her body in the barrel, they conclude that, like, clearly she was not murdered here and then stuffed in the barrel. She was actually killed elsewhere and then brought to that point in the mountains where they then stuff her body in the barrel and light it on fire. And maybe there's something there. Because I was just mentioning, right, how some diseases require you to burn the corpses. There could be something there. So maybe there is some kind of virus outbreak. Maybe we just don't know about it yet. Some kind of connection to Tomitake and Takano. Maybe something happens with Takano. That's the thing. Tomitake and Takano are kind of like a duo, right? They pretty much act in tandem. Like, where one goes, the other typically follows, right? So, interesting. So it could be they do, like, show up to take Takano. We know Tomitake is some kind of military officer. We've seen his uniform now. I'm like, we already kind of figured from the fact he wears dog tags, he had some kind of involvement in the military, but we know he himself is some kind of officer in some capacity. What rank, what kind of level of influence does he hold? God, I could only guess, but we know he holds some importance. But clearly that indicates he could probably hold his own in a fight, right? And that's something that's kind of hinted at when they very first find his body, is like, yes, he clawed his throat out, but also he has a lot of bruises and signs of, assault on his body. So it could be whoever attacks them, right? Tomitake, does his best to fight back. Something happens in this altercation to where both Tomitake and Takano get exposed to whatever it is, to the virus, the sickness, whatever it is they're researching here. And Tomitake succumbs quickly, whereas, and it could be like, if these people manage to, like, break into the clinic, right, and steal samples of this virus. Because all this time we've been fearing the shots, right? We've been in fear of the injections, because they're what we believe that's what gives you the virus. And then with this last chapter, I've kind of started to believe the opposite, right? Typically, the injections are things that help. They're things that keep the sickness at bay. But obviously, if they're researching the sickness, they would have to have samples to research, right? Not just people who carry it, but I imagine they have actual samples to study, and compare it to the people who actually have said sickness, right? In Satoko and potentially Rika. So it could be someone manages to break into the clinic and take these samples, whoever they are. They inject Tomitake with it because they know he'd be too much trouble to handle on their own. And, he does his best to fight back, but eventually succumbs to the virus, whatever it is. And after that, I could imagine they take Takano with them because she's more knowledgeable on the actual research. And if anything, it seems like it could be they kidnap her potentially for like some kind of torture scenario, right? Being like, oh, if you don't help us, we'll inject you with it, we'll do it. And she's like, fuck it, do it. I kind of get the feeling that Takano's not one to break under the threat of torture. Just the kind of vibe I get from her, maybe. So eventually they do it to prove they do it, and she still won't, still won't succumb to it. So eventually that's why they have to burn her body in the mountains, because she has the virus and they don't want it to spread any further. But then the question becomes, who would be the perpetrators behind that, and how could we possibly prevent it? Right? Ultimately, that's what this whole thought experiment is about. The whole reason we would think about any of this, about Rika's role in this, Tomitake and Takano's role in this, how anything could potentially happen to them, how do you prevent that? Who is it, and how do you prevent that? Because obviously we could think of like, oh, someone finds out they're studying some kind of thing that could be used as a bioweapon, some foreign government gets involved, and they would, through espionage and stealth tactics, they take it back, right? It'd be a plot of like some kind of fucking spy movie, you know? A good old 007 type plot. But even if that were true, how would you prevent it? That is the real question. How do you prevent it? I mean, if nothing else, the whole gang is on like the good side of the Sonozakis, right? So potentially I could see Rika trying to use that to her advantage. They seem to have, become more positively acquainted with Oishi. There's potentially that. And Oishi himself is already looking out for what could potentially happen for, the curse to continue this year. So I could see that being a potential route. We know that the Sonozaki relatives are there. I feel like that's kind of the route to go. I feel like, A, you either go to Oishi and tell him, I have a bad feeling about Takano and Tomitake. Please keep extra eyes on them so nothing happens to them. You could turn to the Sonozaki reps, potentially. See, the Sonozaki reps would be harder to convince, though. Because, like, yeah, they have, power and whatnot, but if you tell them, oh, I believe they're gonna press you the same way Tomitake and Takano are, like, oh, you believe their lives are in danger, why? Whereas, if you go to Oishi and say, could you and your team, like, please keep an eye on Tomitake and Takano, I'm worried about them. I just have a really bad feeling I'm worried about them. I feel like Oishi would be much more willing to hear you out in that regard. Hmm.
そんなことはありえないよ。
私だってあんまりね、どこか遠くの山を、それがあなたの夢の中。
今夜だけでもどう騙されたと思って、どうか僕の言う。
私たちの身に迫る何か。大丈夫よ。あなたの身辺は今日だって8人があなたの近辺を警護しているのよ。
Yeah, I came here to warn you because I'm worried about myself. Like, I mean, essentially, yes, that is true. She knows that, her fate is intertwined with theirs, so kind of yeah. But also, like, what kind of line of thought is that to connect if you don't know anything about what's going on? If you don't know actually what Rika's, well, actually, she probably does know what actually has been going on with Rika if there is no supernatural involvement, right? But even still, just to be like, oh, listen, you're coming here worried about our safety, don't worry, you'll be fine. Like, I came here about you. I'm here to talk to you about you.
ありがとうです。僕の警護はですから、高野たちも同じく用心してほしいのです。
心配してくれてありがとう。大丈夫だよ。こう見えても体は鍛えてるんだ。
Great, Tomitake. Glad you've been hitting the gym.
降りかかる火の粉くらいはちゃんと払えるよ。
And see, I do believe that. I do believe that, and I feel like that's why you get ambushed the way you do. Is because they also know that you can protect yourself. Tomitake flexed his biceps and smiled. He's probably trying to make me feel better, but all he really did was make me feel sadder. This is the sad part about being me. I know the future, but I can't tell them. It's as if that was a rule of the world. People tend not to believe what I tell
で
them.
も富武と高野が死ねば二人が死んだら誰が僕を守ってくれるのですか？
どうも相当は大丈夫よ。もし万が一私たちが死ぬようなことがあっても山犬があなたを警護するわ。
What if it's a coup held by the mountain dogs? What if there's double agents? Think about that one.
山犬は守ってくれたため。
そんなことな。あなたがふっかけたあなたの近辺をもちろん平時にはそこまでの警戒はして入江所長の警護よりも厳重なくらいよ。
富武と高野が死ん。
無論よ。あなたの身ほど大事なものはないんだ。
僕たちは今夜参ったな。
富武に生き残る意志がないのなら死んだ後の私の身にしか興味がないです。
My words must have left a mark on his heart. He looked much more serious after I said that to him.
やれやれ、分かったよ。せいぜい今夜気をつ。沖宮へ戻るときは僕にも警護をつ。
二人の時に襲われるのだと思います。だから今夜二人きりになってはダメなのです。
あらあら、おませさんね。
Like I thought, I can't change their fate. When we saved Satoko, everyone shared the same sense of urgency. That's why we all got together and saved her before it was too late. Yeah, but obviously you can't convince everyone the same way you can with her. However, these two have no sense of urgency at all. How can I make them understand? I sighed and gave
富
up.
武、さようなら。今日までありがとうでした。
ちょっと待ちなよ。リカちゃん。
I had nothing else to say to them now. Instead, it might be worth talking to someone else. If we can get someone else to protect them, I might be able to change something. Oishi? Can't give up yet. Fate is as thin as a piece of paper. Exactly. You gotta keep trying. Atta girl. It's just like the lid on a jar of jam. It's not going to open unless you believe it will. I have to believe that I can change my fate. If I don't, it's not going to change.
富武さんとそれは本当ですか？
Okay. Irie is a fair one to go to. I've told Irie about this so many times in the past. Irie tends to listen to me more seriously than Tomitake and Takano do. However, that doesn't mean he can actually do something about
お
it.
社様の巫女の僕が嫌な予感がするか。
わかりました。そうおっしゃるなら今夜そんな事件があればお二人には注意するよう私からも伝えましょう。
All Irie would end up doing would be warning the two of them, which was exactly the same thing as what I did. In other words, it wouldn't matter in the least. Irie is just a researcher, and he has no ability to deal with unexpected trouble. That's why Takano works for him, after all.
くれぐれもよろペコリ。
Who else would treat me seriously? Oishi. I can't believe I'm saying it, but we gotta put a little faith in Oishi. If there's anyone who cares about, the curse of Yashiro-sama and the fucking, events happening every night of the... Okay. That's why they point out. That's why they point it out. That's why they make sure to point it out that this 5th year feels different than the years past, right? I forget which one they pointed that out in, like, chapter 2 or 3, maybe? That, like... Or no, that was chapter... Was that chapter 5? Maybe. But they point out that, like, the 5th year seems to feel different, as if someone else was, completely uninvolved, which obviously, if we take it at face value, no one is involved in the previous instance. They simply happened the way they did, right? There's no one making these things happen. It's just, once again, part of the grand misunderstanding in Hinamizawa, right? But that's the thing. Whoever this is that's targeting Takano and Tomitake, they're able to do it under the guise of this curse that everyone believes in, right? Regardless of whether or not we recognize it as an actual string of connected incidents or totally individual incidents that aren't connected in any way, the people of the village are going to see it as yet another incident connected in this, string of things. And that's how they're able to get away with it. even if Takano and Tomitake really have no reason to be, if you believe in the whole, curse, someone's manipulating all this and whatnot, there's really no reason to target Tomitake and Takano, because they're not really seen as enemies in any capacity, right? The Hojos in 2 and 4, those are obviously the big enemies. The dam manager in 1, the Furade couple in 3, who were seen as wishy-washy, weren't really willing to support the village, right? They didn't have the conviction that everyone else did. You could essentially see how they could be portrayed as enemies, but Tomitake and Takano really ain't like that. Especially now when we saw them show up for Satoko, at the big protest where the whole village came together, right? Like, it's hard to, in that, especially after something like that, it'd be hard to view them as enemies of the village. But still, it happens, and the people of the village would be willing to believe it's the curse because of their own, inner beliefs. And that's how they're able to get away with it. And that's why no one questions it. Because and especially if the rest of the village believes it was the Sonozakis that were responsible for the last 4 years' incidents, even if they weren't, if the rest of the village believes that, they're just going to inherently believe that, oh, well, it was the Sonozakis again. I don't know what Takano and Tomitake did, but they must have done something to piss them off. I don't know. So clearly, whoever carries it out, well, that's the thing. I would say it has to have knowledge of it, but really anyone in the area is kind of aware of it. I just don't know. But I feel like the one person we go to when it comes to matters of the curse, as much as I hate to say it, you gotta go to Oishi. I feel like he's the only one who's actually gonna, hear you out and not just kind of get silly with you. Or he might be a little silly, but he'll still act on it, right? Oishi's a silly guy. He might give you some silly responses and you might think he brushed you off, but he might still act on it. Right? He might brush her off and be like, Rika, you're so silly, come on. But something's gonna eat at him, right? He's gonna be like, what if she's right? What if they are the targets of this year? I really feel like the only one you got to turn to is Oishi. Maybe Mion, Mion or Oreo, maybe go to them, be like, please. But I feel like that's one's gonna be a bit of a stretch, but maybe that's the thing, right? A lot of the miracle that has been occurring, right, is when everyone bands together to help each other. Even if it's hard for you to explain why they'd be in danger, right? Mion still might be a good pick because that's the homie. You're turning to someone you can trust and looking for help. Maybe that is the move. Maybe Mion is the move. I do like how she also pointed out that across all the stories we've read thus far, Mion is the only one who never, snapped and went crazy. It's never been Mion. So, if there's anyone we could really trust to have a cool head on their shoulders, through Rika's eyes, right? Mion might be the play. Mion might be the play. I feel like those are your biggest options, Oishi and Mion. Who would be able to prevent Tomitake and Takano's death? That's right. There's one man who's been fighting the curse of Yachido-sama with all his might. Goddamn right.
あれ探してたんです。赤坂さんがぜひ。
つくづく赤坂とは肝心なと
ね。先日の温泉の赤坂さんも何も恩返し長い休みが取れたら改めてひなみざそれを奥さんにかわいいけどあの奥さん
大石実は大切な話があるのですが
いかがなさいましたか
I've spoken to him several times in the past too. Usually takes me pretty seriously. However, after they die, he starts suspecting me. That's why I stopped talking to him. That's fair. And see, that's kind of what I worry too, is that was kind of a worry in the back of my head. Even if he does take it seriously, he's going to be like, well, how would you know, right? You knew this was going to happen. How did you know unless you had some involvement, right? But that's the thing, now that there's like some sense of camaraderie, right? Because, Oishi stalled and gave them time for the Sonozakis to show up and, help everyone be a part of things. And, he had the policemen around the Hojo residence, so the moment there were screams from the house, the boys were busting in, right? Like, there is some sense of camaraderie with Oishi, right? They're not true enemies at this point. Like, there's a bit more trust there, you'd think.
それをどこでどの辺で
I told them that I heard someone talking about murdering them in the crowd. Yeah, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. I get you say that because you know that's going to pique Oishi's interest and get him, like, actually involved. But I feel like there's better ways to go about it. Obviously, Rika, if we set the supernatural aside anyway, Rika herself is like, what, 11? 11 or 12, somewhere in that range. She's a young girl. I feel like the best way to go about it is to say, I'm worried about Takano and Tomitake. She's like, it could be my imagination, but I feel like they've been getting some strange looks from people in the crowd. And I know that, we both know about the whole curse thing, so like, I don't know, I just really appreciate it if you and your boys would keep an eye on them, make sure they stay safe. Kind of say something like that, like ease into it, like, I feel like there is a genuine threat there, right? We both know the curse has been going on for years now, right? And I feel like these people have been getting some looks. I just would really appreciate if you keep an eye on them. I feel like that's better than going like, yeah, I was walking through the crowd, heard someone say they were gonna murder him. Like, that's a bit too direct almost, but like, yeah, and now I just get back, oh, I was just walking through the crowd. I don't know who said it. I turned around, but there were just so many people. Can't imagine who it was. Like, no one, like, once again, Rika's an 11-year-old girl. I can't expect that much out of her, but like, no wonder he starts suspecting you have some involvement when you say something as ballsy as that, and then it happens, right? That way, he might not be suspicious of me after the murder really happens. Really? Really? There's no way he'll be suspicious if I say I heard it from someone else. Not if you got nothing to back up your story. Ballsy move, Rika. Ballsy move.
確かに富武さんは一人が死んで一人が確かに5年目のたたりとしてはデマの可能性もありますがダメでもお二人をマークさせましょ
う。Okay, okay, yep.
襲うならひなみ沢と沖宮の間の道だとも言っていたように思いますです。
Which makes sense. Attack them while they're leaving. Tomitake's body will be found on the road leading out of the village. From what I remember, he's discovered where the concrete road turns to gravel.
わかりました。車を1台張り付かそのくらいの余裕はありますので。
He agreed to get involved and wasn't suspicious of me either. Sure, it seems odd to people that Oishi actually believe this phony-sounding story of mine. Yes. The thing about Oishi is that he strongly believes that there's no smoke when there's no fire. I've learned from experience that he tends to believe my information. However, there's no that personality of his has caused me so much trouble in previous worlds. Of course, there's no question why he's so eager to believe me either. This is his last chance to expose the curse of Yashiro-sama before his retirement. Even if it might be fake, he still wanted to believe it. That was convenient for me since I couldn't show proof.
クマちゃん、沖宮への帰り道の途中にいえ単なる良くないことがそこら辺で起こるかも。2人程度でお願いいたします。
ありがとうです。誰も僕のことを信じてくれないので。
それを信じるのが何事もなければむしろ無事を喜ぶべき。出動を空振りこれを喜べ。私の先輩の言葉です。それにせっかくのタレコミ情報を見過ごして事件を防げなかったら、これほど悔しいことはありませんからね。
I see. That's his way of thinking about things. That's why he believed me without question. I hope he won't consider me a suspect after they find their bodies tomorrow. Shouldn't worry about that now. Yeah, the hope should be that they don't find their bodies tomorrow. That everything turns out fine, and it was all just a misunderstanding, and Takano and Tomitake are A-okay. I can still do more. Hey, that's true. Don't rest on your laurels. Cover every base you can. Who else should I talk to? Mion? Should I talk to my friends? Yes. Can't give up. I should at least try. Mion?
まさか
Called it. I mean, I'm sure the other friends are there too, but like...
そんな物騒なことを言ってる人がいるのよりにもよってこの日に
あれか今日起こるかもしれないって噂の親
連続4年起こってやっぱり今夜も起こるかもしれないと思ってる人も少なくない。
起こると思うのは勝手でございますけど、富武さんと高野さんを名指しするなんて失礼な話。富武さんと高野さんにももう伝えましたですが、信じてもらえなかったです。
そりゃそうでも万が一大石さんに話した方がいいんじゃないか。
もちろんもう話しましたで。
へえ、リカちゃまはなかなか手際がいいじゃないですか。でも確かに用心に越したことは今夜だけは。ひなみ沢村連続通称お社、はっきり言って何年も続かれちゃ困る。面白がって模倣するバカも出てくるし、何より村のイメージダウンにしかならない。
つまり今夜何も起こらなら今夜起こらないように何かすればいいわけだ。
なんかって悪いことが起こらないように村中で見回りでもしますの？
見回りなんかしたらそもそも手の打ちようなんてあるんですか？一応綿流しの準備会の方では連続開始事件を模倣しようとする変質者が紛れ込む可能性もあるので、
ひなみ沢はよその人の顔はわかるからね。
That is true, right? I kind of forget that fact is that even though they already mentioned it earlier, the fact that there are people not from Hinamizawa at this festival. People from other councils are invited, youth groups from other cities are invited, like there are ways for strangers to get in, right? So whoever this is looking to plan something, this would be their moment to come in and obviously take advantage of the whole Curse of Ayashiro thing. But see, now that you get the gang in, now that you let the gang know, and the gang can keep their eyes open and be like, we got some strangers acting shady over here. We got some strangers looking a bit weird, and like we noticed them in Takano and Tomitake's area. We noticed them making some weird eyes at them. Once you get the homies in on it.
見慣れない人がいたらすぐわかる。だからきっとだ。でもそれでもきっとリカちゃん、そうだね。私たちにもで。
そうだな。一晩中を護衛はできないだろうけど、せめて祭りが人が近くにいれば悪い連中もおいそれと手出しはできねえだろう。
Couldn't tell if they really believe me or not, but they listened to me at least. That's the homies. We decided to keep our eyes on Tomitake and Takano and protect them for the rest of the night. Guess I've done everything I can now. I mean, hey, you covered all the bases I would expect to cover. I mean, hell, you even went a bit further and talked to Irie. I kind of figured he wouldn't be able to do anything, but hey, that's another base you covered just in case. But you went the exact routes I would have went. Like, I know I said just go to Mion, but like, it's not a bad idea to get all the homies involved. Miracles happen when everyone works together. Though it's hard to believe this is enough to prevent their deaths.
あとは明日目が覚めた時、リカは富武たちの死を防げると思っていますですか？
It doesn't matter if I can, it matters if I gave my fucking all to make it happen.
無理かもしれない。やはりあの二人が死ぬのは。でも山犬が私への警護を厳重にしてくれているから。
That is something that is different potentially. But like once again, like I said, like if potentially there's a double agent within the Mountain Dogs, that's not going to do you much good.
そうしてる間に東京から応援も来るだろうしね。
That is potentially true as well. Once again, if
いつものように富武たちが殺されたとしても、
それでもダメなら
潔く死ぬし、とにかく今回は最後の最後まで諦めない。あがける限り
どうせ無駄だから残りの時間をリカの好きなようにする。羽生は相変わらずどうせダメだ。僕はいいもダメ。期待するから心が痛むか。
I'm an actress trying to get up on the stage. Hanyu is a real bystander. We have very different opinions when it comes to this.
リカ、何があってもなんだか今回も最近あんたと話してると
God,
イラ
same.
つくことが多いわ。
I understand. Hanyu keeps telling me not to get my hopes up because she cares about me. Because I hope to defeat fate, I get hurt when that hope is betrayed. The more I get hurt, the closer I get to losing my mind and disappearing. For Hanyu, that means losing her only friend. Losing me is probably the most unbearable thought for Hanyu, since she has to live alone, unable to communicate with anyone else. I now believe that fate can be changed. Even when I didn't have that faith, I still believe that eventually I'd find a way to get out of this maze. Perhaps Hanyu knows something I don't. I might just be a goldfish inside of a fishbowl. There might be no way for me to escape my fate. We're stuck alone inside of a fishbowl, yet every day I knock on the glass believing that I can break it someday. Hanyu keeps telling me that I'm wasting my time. If I get hurt and die, she would have to survive all by herself inside the fishbowl. With that, I think I finally understand our difference of opinions. Hanyu has lived for a much longer time than I have. Because of that, she understands the laws of this infinitely spanning world better than I do. No matter how much I refute Hanyu, I can never refute the truth. Even so, I still have to believe in my own faith. I believe in a spear that will pierce the wall of fate. My faith will make that spear sharper than ever. We found Tomitake in the crowd and struck up a conversation with him to keep him around as long as we could. However, as soon as the festival ended, they tried to leave. If they left now, I'd never see them again. Mion tried insisting that they stay at her house for the night, but Tomitake refused. Everyone tried various ways to stop them from being alone because the murderer might be around. Thus, gang. However, we eventually started to believe that they wanted to be alone for adult reasons. And I wound up suggesting that we shouldn't interrupt the two lovebirds.
大丈夫だよ。富武のおじさま、いざとなれば高野さんのために獅子奮陣の。
そうよね。私に危機があったら二郎さんがから
そのつもりだよ。
じゃあ私たちはもう行こう。
I don't really have any ground to base this off of. But my brain starts to wonder, what if Takano or Tomitake is one of these potential double agents? Right? We don't really know exactly where Takano's loyalties lie. We know she's involved in the research. We know she works at the clinic and whatnot. She clearly has some strong ties as she's able to call on a fucking hit squad. But also, Tomitake himself seems to be some kind of government representative for some kind of government organization, right? And should they decide to, you know, put the kibosh on it in a permanent manner, right? I could see it. I could see it. I don't really have anything to like go off of that would like make me like, oh, but because of this detail, it seems like it's possible that was one of them. But like, I guess there is the moment in chapter 3 when Keiichi runs into Takano, right? And he notices Tomitake's bike. And like the implication is that Takano had murdered him, right? But was that truly Takano, or was Keiichi having yet another delusion, right? That's a tough one to call. I don't know. Because, yeah, if we think about that scene from chapter 3, that would imply, if we were to take it just at face value, that would imply that Takano does something to Tomitake. And mayhaps she's some kind of double agent in all of this.
うだいぶ遅いよ。
Yeah, it's getting late.
ありがとうね。
くれぐれも僕は診療所に忘れ物をしてるんだ。
Okay. They're going back to the clinic. Interesting. Because, right, Rika mentions that... Ooh. Rika mentions that his body gets found where the gravel meets the pavement, right? But what if that's just where his body's dropped off? That's not actually where he gets assaulted. I think that kind of... Isn't that kind of the implication? That he had kind of been beaten and then, like, kind of dumped out by the road and then he, like, clawed his throat out? Or is that my brain just making things up? I believe that was kind of the assumption. But what if Tomitake goes to the clinic and for some reason he gets ambushed there? Takano having some involvement. I could see it. I could see it. I don't have any real information to, like, make a strong case for it, but I could see it.
それで診療所の鍵は高野さんが持ってるから高野さんと一緒。
へえ。富武のおじさま、ナースプレイとは奥が深いです。
Shion, if you had seen her nurse's outfit, you would understand.
違うよ、シオン。きっと分娩台を使ったお医者さんごっこなんだよ。
Oh, Mion, I love you.
がっちり理解できてるなら照れ隠しに殴るのはやめろ。それからミオン、お前ら下ネタだけ意気投合するな。
Nah, it's the perfect time to get along. I love him.
じゃあね、みんな。本当に忘れ物を取りに戻るだけだからね。ついてきちゃダメだよ。
富武、本当に用心す。理科の心配しす。
Everyone laughed when Satoko yawned. Seemed like a good time to call it a day. It doesn't feel like I was able to change their fate. Just hope that they pay attention, that they're prepared for whatever faces them. Because that's the thing, right? If one of them is the double agent and you believe something's going to happen to them, they can then adapt to that knowledge. So in that case, it is kind of like a good thing you go to them first, right? So that you don't tell them, like, yeah, I've also talked to Irie and Oishi and the homies. I still might have a chance. All I can do now is pray.
それじゃあ富武さん、またぜひその時は写真を見せてくださいね。
その罰ゲームのシャツ、ぜひ着てきてくださいね。
よっ、美女との一夜、羨ましいね。ヒューヒュー。
またね、みんな。次に会うのは秋頃かな。
私たちが今夜。それじゃみんな。
おやすみなさい。
That was the best I could do on the night of Watanagashi. You did your damnedest, girl. You did your damnedest. We got tips? No tips? Please tell me what happened this night. This is like a box with a cat inside. Please tell me what happened this night. I don't even know if the cat's alive or dead inside the box. Please tell me what happened this night. The cat in the box is dead. Okay. 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 Interesting. Interesting. Unfortunately, I do have to wrap this one up here for today. I've run out of time, but very interesting to see how this turns out. Because obviously we're seeing Tomitake's perspective at the clinic. Like, seems like we're gonna see some shit go down. And who knows, maybe, I mean, we're at the night of Watanagashi. Maybe I am right at the end, who knows. But I do have to wrap it up here. But God, I'm so looking forward to it. I loved everything we've seen thus far. All the build up around saving Satoko, Rika's impassioned speech to finally convince Satoko. Like I said, you know, everyone had their own like struggles to overcome. Well, except kind of, they do kind of point out that Mion herself didn't really have any struggles to overcome. But like Keiichi overcame his, you know, feeling of an outsider. Reina overcame her, you know, feelings concerning her father and all that. You know, Satoko and Rika, Satoko had to, I had that backwards. Rika had to help Satoko overcome her thing, so that in the hopes that Rika could then overcome her own struggles and whatnot. I loved it. It was great. But now we're gonna get to seeing that really shows us a bit more meat of the mystery, right? Everything we've seen up to this part has been very interesting. It's been very nice to help, you know, see everyone come together, watch this, you know, big moment, watch, you know, Satoko, you know, finally get her forgiveness from the village and whatnot. Very beautiful, very good to see. I loved it. This is actually going to give us a bit more look into the mystery of things, a little bit more of like what's going to happen. So I'm very much excited for it. But like I said, I do have to wrap it up here for today. So thank you to anyone watching, and hopefully I'll see y'all in the next one. Till then, peace.